Alrighty, everyone. Welcome in to the top bracket semifinals for ZGG Gold. I am TS9 Rhino, and I am joined by Mrs. Thousand Eyes over here, and we are going to be getting into the draft of this game. It's an excellent match. It's between Imperial and Maitres du Fromage, which I am going to butcher very, very badly, and I apologize to any French listeners. Thousand, how are we doing this evening?
I am existing because we are running it light here today. Because I am also running the broadcast for those who aren't aware, and this is going to be an interesting night because of that. But regardless, respect the production gaffes going on. We are into the draft. I am excited. These are supposedly, our best teams that we have left in our entire league. And this should be a very, very good night.
I agree. These are two. I mean, I'm looking at these rosters, and it's been a while since I've been here, but there are so many familiar names across all of them, too. Not a surprise at all. We are into picks and bans, though. We do see a couple of mid lane bans coming out with the Xerath and the Victor, and then some jungle retention with the Trundle and the Jarvan, as well as a couple of bot lane focused bans. What do you expect to see here as Seraphine is locked in first?
I would expect to see Seraphine. That's probably what.
Good answer.
Yeah. Take the easy wins when you get them. But yeah, I mean, so Seraphine obviously being locked in does make it hard to play something like an engage composition. So MDF, we're looking to do that. It now becomes a lot harder. You can go for something really lane dominant. Lucian has been banned away, obviously, but there are other options available. I did not have the time to be able to go and check the PGGs of the players, so I don't have the most information. You'll have to forgive me on that one. But with the Tahm Kench locked in, that is probably a top lane Tahm Kench. He can flex support, he can go top. I think, honestly, against... it's a great blind top pick because it does do well into pretty much anything and scales like mad into team fights, but I'm wrong.
Yes, as Mordekaiser gets locked in immediately to fall. I'm with you there, though. It is on Dobbs' played list, so not a huge surprise. But clearly, Tahm Kench as a counter, I would assume, in the bot lane to Seraphine, something that Schiller feels is a good matchup. And a blind Mordekaiser for Dobbs in the top lane into Righteous is a little bit interesting. I don't think Mordekaiser is super strong on the current patch. He did get some buffs, but I feel like he's been in a weak spot. As Volibear gets locked in, I'm assuming this goes jungle, as Volibear has been incredibly powerful in that role.
Most likely. However, Volibear does do decent into a champion like Mordekaiser because he can pretty consistently trade, and that is kind of supposed to be Mordekaiser's niche. When he goes up against somebody that is as good as him at that, it becomes a lot harder for him. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that go top lane, but it's probably going to be a jungle just because of how strong those ganks are, how well you can clear and stay healthy while doing so. That is a Tristana, it looks like, for the bot lane, which I like here. You're looking at a Seraphine and a Senna in the bot side. Tristana alongside the Tahm Kench gives you that engage potential. That early lane, you have the opportunity to just jump on one of these two champs, and they don't have a good way to stop you when you do that.
Very good point. Yeah, an aggressive lane coming out here on the side of MDF as we continue to go through the ban phase. A Gnar ban, so clearly they're not thinking this Volibear is going to be flexed top lane. Let's see if Stone Maidsoft has that in his champ pool. Now, have we seen any solo lane Tristana? I do expect this to be bot lane, but there was some talk that she would be viable as a solo laner. I'm curious if that's something that Skelly might have in his champ pool.
Yes, it is possible. I think, honestly, you're probably expecting that to be bot lane, not only because it's just generally better in the bot lane, but it also is a great matchup here. I would be surprised they could shift that to the mid lane if they want to really flex things and they get something where Tristana does really well in the mid lane, but most likely going to be a bot side. Even if they didn't have their opponents in the bot lane picked entirely, Tristana is always a pretty solid pickup, and she scales really well, a really strong early laner, and there's so much that she can bring to a team.
Agree with you there, and we do see the Anivia ban coming out. I was curious if they were going to take that one away from Skelly. Brand as a blind mid here, so saving counterpick for jungle, I'm assuming. Now, Brand can technically go into the jungle. Is that something that we would be expecting here at all?
No. Please, God, no. Don't do that to me. I don't want to have to analytically break down a Brand jungle. I feel like that's never going to end well. Regardless, probably a mid lane. So here's actually an interesting concept. We don't know where most of these are going. Any of these could be flexed anywhere. The Brand could go in the bot lane and they send the Tahm Kench top. That's an opportunity. Mordekaiser does have the ability to jungle. They gave him buffs for that in the last couple of patches, so he will be able to do so. IG going for a very standard meta composition in today's climate with the Corki in the mid lane, the Aatrox to be able to fight up against that Tahm Kench. That's still going to be one that Tahm Kench will be fine in. He will survive. I kind of don't like the Aatrox here, and there is the Leona pickup. So maybe, just maybe, I have a big brain.
I think that is a gigantic brain call right there. Mordekaiser, now I guess it could be Tahm Kench into the jungle, but I would expect the Mordekaiser primarily. And yeah, Brand into the mid lane, probably. Oh, I guess it doesn't have to be. Tristan and Brand could be swapped between solo lanes.
Yeah.
We do know that MDF has some, as their name would indicate, they do have some cheese, some intriguing ways that they choose to play their style. And we're already seeing it with this draft in the first game.
Yeah, I really like that. I like that switch up. I also like the Leona here too, because it is a really solid switch up in terms of you had the Tahm Kench or the Brand, and those can be really good in terms of the engage potential on a Senna Seraphine. But Leona, not only is she great at fighting early, but that level 6 point where you have the Seraphine ultimate, Leona can just pop the R and kind of, it's conditional engage. You don't have to go in at that point. You can pop the R, look to see if you think you have an opportunity to go in, or just hold off on it and say, all right, I popped R, it's not a long cooldown, we could just wait for the next one. As opposed to something like an Alistar, which requires you to go in if you're going to go in. You know, there's no stun from long range like the Leona has.
Definitely agree there. Long range, non-committal engage is super valuable. It's why Ornn has been seeing an incredible trend up in popularity as well, I think, along with some of his buffs. But I do love Leona. I think especially into a really long range lane like the Seraphine Senna, you need to have some way of getting on top of them. Tahm Kench was probably not going to be it, and it does look like that is a Mordekaiser jungler. Yep. Oh, excuse me. And the Tahm Kench will be going into the top side.
Yeah, and I'm kind of critical of this Aatrox, because Aatrox is one of those champs that he either really wants a strong early or a strong mid game, and I don't think Tahm Kench is ever going to give him the opportunity for that. You're not going to be able to dive him. Even with the Volibear, it becomes really, really difficult because he has two people that his gray health will stock up on now. The ability to trade is just not there because he's going to heal off both the grasp and the Q. It's really difficult for this Aatrox to do something. He's going to have to show up to some of these mid-game fights and really pop off. That's the only option that this Aatrox has. And I think that's a bit too small of a window as opposed to picking something like a tank to match up with that.
See that. I do agree the lane is going to be incredibly neutral. It probably will be a farm fest, although you can never say that for sure in any of these leagues. I do kind of like the Aatrox here, though. I think you have four pretty beefy melee frontliners that don't have a lot of mobility that make it pretty easy for him to get off his full Q combos, get a lot of healing off of that Gore Drinker, in addition to what's coming through from the Senna and the Seraphine. And I think if given a little bit of leeway in these fights, I think he has the ability to really do a lot of damage, just because I don't think the Mordekaiser and the Tahm Kench are really going to be able to deal with his damage.
Yeah, I mean, you'd hope so. The other really scary thing, too, is all of these lanes are really scary to dive. You have the Volibear, who is kind of meant to do that, get those early fights, or the dive, level 6. And you're diving a Brand. He's going to pop R, and he's going to be real scary in that. You're giving him an opportunity to just pump out damage on both people hitting him. You have the Leona, which will stun you and crowd control you for so long. And then the top lane, Tahm Kench, is just going to soak up damage and stay alive. So it's really rough here. I think MDF have a much better scaling composition, even if it is a little bit less than what you'd expect in terms of average composition here. But it's still really solid overall in terms of the just ability to counteract what it is Imperial Gaming want to do. I think execution is going to be really important here. If Imperial Gaming can execute on their composition better and MDF aren't prepared for that and they aren't responding correctly, that's going to be something Imperial Gaming can start to run away with. And a Senna and a Corki that start going off the rails is very difficult to deal with.
That is an excellent point that you bring up right there. I absolutely concur on that statement. Execution is kind of tough when you, like, bot lane is a perfect example. Senna Seraphine can be an absolutely horrible lane to play against because they outrange you by so much. But if they don't position correctly, you get Leona with a couple of engages and they're able to get kills on that Tristana. That lane all of a sudden completely shifts the other direction. The Mordekaiser ult, I think, is going to be really interesting here. In fights around objectives, I think obviously he would want to pull the Volibear, but him being the jungler kind of makes things more intriguing. Usually when you have a top lane Mordekaiser, you want to pull the enemy jungler so your jungle gets the smite, but that's not available here. The Aatrox is another one that he might be able to pull into the Death Realm just to stop some of the engage coming through on his front line, but with so many long-range poke characters available for Imperial here, it kind of feels like he's going to either need really good angles and ways to flank, or he's going to be kind of stuck ulting one of the frontliners and just hoping that his team can carry without it.
And I think the flank is the big thing here. Mordekaiser absolutely just puts out a ridiculous amount of damage on all three of these squishy characters. You look at the Senna, the Seraphine, especially, they are going to get bopped by the Mordekaiser, and if he can come in from the side, and he's got the Ghost to be able to just zoom in unexpectedly, so that can be really, really important. And if he does grab a Senna, that's a lot of stats he's taking and a lot of great damage that is being taken out of a fight that goes all in there. If you take out the Senna, all you have is the Corki really for consistent damage, and the engage potential of the Tahm Kench, the Leona. They're gonna soak up that damage from the Corki, and that gives so much space there.
All right, we've seen these two drafts. We've compared and contrasted. 1,000, what's your prediction for this first game?
I am going to go with MDF. I think they have the... I think the burden of execution is on IG, and it's a small window to execute, and I'm not sure I trust in that capability.
Seems like a fair... I am going to go with Imperial. I think they have been the top seed and potentially the favorites to win the whole thing. Like you said, execution is going to matter, but I think Imperial has showed over the last several weeks that they have the ability to do so. All right, we're going to jump into game in just a few moments, but game one of the upper bracket semifinals is coming up. Alrighty, folks, we are back after a very brief pause, and we do get to see this series open up. It's a best of 5 this evening. Could be a very, very exciting one as the teams start out in a 5-point stance.
Yeah, not expecting anything too crazy. Nobody has a really super strong level 1, maybe Brand Poke, but he's not support, so he doesn't get anything out of it.
No spell thieves to proc in this particular game. You do see 2 tiers starting out. Imperial going for their mid laner and their Seraphine going to be starting that. So definitely looking to get the scaling train rolling a little bit early. And we do have any interesting things that you want to talk about in terms of runes or summoner spells.
So you and I talked about it a little bit during the break. The cleanse on the Tristana I think is really good here. There's 2 reasons you want to take cleanse. Either there's a lot of crowd control you're scared of, or there is very extremely pivotal crowd control that you want to make hit by, and this is definitely the second of those. You have the stun from the Volibear with the flash predator boots flying in, or you have the Seraphine ult. If you don't get hit by either of those, you're good to go and you're going to be pumping out damage. So I think the cleanse is a great pickup here, especially because you're not looking at a lane that's going to kill you early.
Very true, yes, especially with that tier start. It's going to be a much more long-term play in the bot lane there. As we see, the junglers are both starting on the bot side of the map, probably going to go ahead and do full clears, I would imagine, as appears to be the general trend this patch for jungle attention. What do you expect to see them kind of prioritizing lane-wise over the next few levels?
That's a tough call here, because I feel like the top lane may get some action. Aatrox, Tahm Kench, if one of those champs does get ahead, level 2.
Ooh, the jump is going to come in, immediately going to be rooted up, and the damage trade is actually nice. The bomb explosion onto DD is going to do some damage, but overall I think that's a pretty decent trade for the Seraphine Senna, especially considering all the sustain at their disposal.
Absolutely. The big thing, though, is the Senna exhaust already used. That is the one option they have to slow the burst down. And with the health pots, it is Longsword 3 pots. They're going to be able to heal back up there. And I think MXL and Chiller Frost are going to be okay and pretty happy with that. Overall, honestly, I think this may work out better for the Tristana and this Leona here, because one more jump like that, it's now burning flashes.
I agree, and you can see how careful they have to be right now as the Leona's kind of threatening from the fog of war. Very difficult to kind of step up without that safety net of the exhaust. Sun's going to go down on the Corki early. That's a pretty big chunk of damage. Passive from Brand is going to get him a Dark Harvest proc this early as well. Really nice trade from Skelly P.
Great stuff there. That's really what you kind of would expect from this Brand. If he does get one good grab onto you, he is going to absolutely wreck you. Corki does need to be very careful about that. Top lane is gonna get an engage here, is looking to go in.
Here we go. Mordekaiser's here, has the ghost available. The Volibear was here, but has chosen to walk away. There's the pull. Flash not used. Finally burned too late. And Vandal's going to pick up first blood here on the Mordekaiser. Meanwhile, the Stone Maid Soft Volibear shows up in the mid lane, but just has to walk away.
Yeah, and a little bit of disrespect on the engage from the Tahm Kench there. If you see Tahm Kench diving in on you like that, you kind of need to assume that the jungler is going to be there, especially when you have an idea that he started on the blue buff and is working his way towards the top side there. That's a little bit of lacking in jungle preparation and understanding where the jungler is going to be, and Righteous pays the price for that. Luckily, he has the TP. He's not going to miss too many minions, but is unfortunately fortunate turn of events.
Yeah, first blood over to the enemy jungler. This Mordekaiser getting springboard a little bit. Has the early leeching Leer, which I think is an interesting choice. I don't feel it's a particular... I'm going to have to pause that. Stone Maid Soft is here. Flashes away from the stun and is going to be able to get himself out to safety. But with the dragon spawning pretty soon here... Oh, Ghost is actually used by the Mordekaisers there. Maybe something
that was top side.
Oh! You're totally right. He got the speed buff from the crab, and I missaw it. Thank you for that. All right, so we do have... Oh, Brand's moving over here to check out the attempted steal by Volibear, but he has the smite, is going to be able to secure that one. Early Dragon is an Ocean Dragon as we start this one off, and I imagine that it's pretty darn good for both teams here.
Very good for both teams. Both teams would love to get that. Early Ocean Dragons are just very good all around because it gives you that extra sustain. The trading works out better. If you have sustain, you can save your mana a little bit. If you don't have sustain, it just gives you something you didn't have before. So, and because it's so early, it kind of becomes really, really important. You're not getting any built-in sustain in your items yet, and that becomes really important. Obviously, it's not going to be the Dragon Soul, but it's still really, really nice to have.
Nice trading coming out from Righteous on this top side here. The Gage comes through in the bot side. The jump in from Morgana, but he is going to be rooted up. Flash is forced as the Exhaust is still available, but you got both summoners out of the Tristana for that one for just the heal flash with the Senna.
Yeah, a little bit botched there. No mana on the Seraphine right now. As Aatrox and Tahm Kench just going to continue going at it and continue trading back and forth. Aatrox early power has been great, but there's another Mordekaiser gank looming if he continues to fight.
Very good point. Yeah, does have the World Ender, which will give him a little bit of movement speed, but he doesn't have that flash still from the earlier gank, as the Volibear is going to show on vision on the bot side of the map. Mordekaiser does choose to just base instead, and is going to go ahead and pick himself up some boots, get a little bit closer to being that scary gank threat that the level 6 brings.
Yeah, right now, game has been going pretty slow, and I think this does favor the MDF squad a little bit more with the power of that brand. Obviously, Seraphine, Senna, very, very good. But the question is, can they actively continue that on? And with this Aatrox already struggling against the Tahm Kench, it really doesn't look great. The jungle attention has been great. Banjo's been up top side, been able to take a dragon, and so far Stone Maid Soft hasn't had a whole lot of success so far, but he does have the Predator boots and has the cooldown boots to not only be able to get better ults when that happens, but for better flashes and Predator activations.
Very good point there. Yeah, I agree with that one for sure. I want to talk a little bit about the vision control, because we haven't seen too many ganks come down from these two junglers who really are capable of getting out early ganks, and I think a lot of it is due to the vision line. We did see a bunch cleared out, but I would say that Imperial had a really strong, as the pull's not quite going to land. Volibear going to run towards the top side of the map. Now, Tahm Kench is pushed up here, so this is a 2v3 here. Goes for the W, isn't going to land it. A little bit of speed boost coming out here. Volibear doesn't have the flash, remember, is going to get eaten up by the Tahm Kench. He's trying to push him towards the turret. Is it going to be enough damage? Righteous, meanwhile, has popped the World Ender. Stone Maid Sauce still alive. No ultimate available for this Volibear to get out of dodge. Dobbs is coming. He's got the slow. It's going to be too much. The pull comes back, and Vandal smashes down the ace. That's a kill onto the enemy jungler, and 2-0 for the Mordekaiser.
Yeah, Mordekaiser starting to get off right now, and that is great news for them. Mordekaiser is one of those champions that when he starts to go, he is very, very scary, especially because he can pull anybody now into that ultimate, and nobody is going to outfight him right now. He is just stronger right now, and nobody will be able to 1v1 him. This is a very scary jungler. I kind of almost wish they'd given it to the Brand, just because I think Brand getting early kills is really, really scary, considering he is mainly balanced around having no gold. And early Leandries on this Brand will be scary. Regardless, I think it's still great on the Mordekaiser. And with the Dragon coming up in a minute 30, he's going to get the opportunity to back and then go back. Oh no, they're looking for, this is another 2v2.
It is indeed. We see the Volibear is kind of here first. Dobbs forced to flash early, but the Mordekaiser is here. Ghost is not available, so they aren't going to be able to get in with that. Predator pops from the Volibear just to make extra sure, and this wave is going to get shoved under tower. There is also the Rift Herald, and it looks like with the push in top lane and mid lane, Volibear might be interested in pulling it out. And that is what he is currently doing. So is going to have to walk away, though, as they know Mordekaiser's on the way, and the teleport comes out from the top lane. Oh, Righteous is just going to immediately get ulted by this Mordekaiser here. Walked up a little bit too far, and he's just going to get the passive going with the autos, gets the pull, and Vandro goes on a killing spree, a solo kill there. Now the rest of Imperial has been forced to back away from the Rift Herald, and it looks like that the Masters of Cheese are going to take that as their prize.
Yeah, this is really already getting a little bit out of hand. MDF already starting to get super strong and still waiting on IG's bot lane to start scaling up. They are keeping even with this Tristana and Leona, and that's really great for them. They're going to be really strong coming out of that, but I don't think it's take down a Mordekaiser that's fed strong. Oh, no.
Yeah, Oliver's going to go in all by himself. Righteous is here as well. Has the World Ender popped. He's going to get a lot of healing. They do manage to get out the Rift Herald there, but the ultimate comes down from Tahm Kench. He's going to numb up that Aatrox. Still has lots to heal. Yeah, here comes the Corki doing more. Meanwhile, engaging the bot lane, Deity low and is going to go down, but a trade as the Tristana dies to the turret. It's going to end up being a 1-for-3 so far. The Senna continuing to pour in damage onto this Leona. Chiller popped the healing potion, is going to get some, and it looks like the safety of the minion wave is going to get him out. But a huge win across the map as the Masters of Cheese make their mark.
Yeah, this is not what you want out of your bot lane here. A good jump onto Deity and getting that kill, but unfortunately getting a little bit too close to the tower and not able to get back around. And when you trade in that bot lane, if either one of the bot laners are still up on IG, it is very much a win for them because they can keep chasing down. Both the Seraphine and the Senna will better damage output the Leona, and Tristana going down is just a lost fight from that point. So this is finally something good happening for IG, but top lane is not.
Yeah, you can see Dobbs just coming off of that base is very, very strong. Gonna have to dodge away from the Tongue Lash and does. Nice fancy feat by Righteous. Meanwhile, his jungler and bot lane with the pressure off of those resets from that fight are able to grab themselves an Air Dragon, and it is going to be Mountain Soul this game. You can see Noble Bark here is sitting with the package, looking to perhaps make a dive happen. Volibear's still waiting on the Stormbringer ultimate to come back, so looks like they're going to back away for now and perhaps look to make a play somewhere else.
Yeah, no use of the package, unfortunately, but still do get a dragon out of the deal. And this Corki is very much out farming this Brand right now. We talked about how Brand does kind of have some balancing around him being a support, so him not having as much gold isn't that big a deal, but Corki being able to pretty much free farm here is a pretty big deal because his items are expensive, and him being able to not only get a really good start in terms of farming, but also probably get a good amount of first strike stocks or first strike stacks and build up extra gold from that. That is gonna add up very, very quickly.
Very scary proposition. We can see Corki's already up almost 1,000 gold alone. He had the one kill in the fight over by the Rift Herald, which was really nice. And then other than that, just that CS discrepancy as Volibear showing to shadow his bot lane here as they try to get this wave pushed in. But the combo on the enemy team is playing safe. Now we do see the Mordekaiser moving up here, has that Death Realm available, also has the Ghost. And they are looking for vision control, so we'll see if they can get Senna Seraphine, though, have the ability to play super passively if they want to. It looks like that's what they're doing.
Yeah, if you take a look at the gold or at the gold tab here, Vandrel is just massive. And NXL not far behind with the kill and the gold. Right behind, though, is that Corki, and that is really the strong point. Here comes Righteous, though.
Yeah, they are going in. World Ender is popped, but it looks like the Tahm Kench, here's what you talked about. They're going for this dive. Still has the gray health available. Needs to get it out before he gets stunned. Does manage to. And the Volibear is going to get eaten, but that actually resets the tower aggro. No, it doesn't. They are going to get a trade as Righteous will go ahead and pick up the kill, but his jungler goes down in response. And you talked about it as we were starting this game. They're not going to be able to dive that Tahm Kench too easily, and it came to fruition here.
I won't lie. I thought that was one that was going to work.
I could have sworn that when Tahm Kench ate him, I thought it would drop tower aggro, but I guess it didn't.
That works when he eats an ally.
Okay.
But when he eats an enemy, they're still going to be focused by that tower, I believe, because it's meant to help allies, not help enemies. Really, there are enough troll aspects of Tahm Kench. Do not need more added in, but. Overall, yeah, great trade there by Dubs, and hey, you gotta really respect that. And I just question diving that top lane. That is, of all the lanes, we talked about how all of them are pretty difficult to dive. I think top is the worst one. And I don't think you're going to really get your Aatrox back into this game enough that he's going to be enough of a threat, because this Mordekaiser will always be able to beat him at this point.
Yeah, Mordekaiser continuing to just farm up, get himself leads. He's hard clearing the jungle pretty much on repeat, has himself a 25 CS lead in addition to those 3 kills. And boy, I would tell you, Mountain Soul looks really good for both of the teams. Obviously, when you have the tank, top lane, and support, that extra shield is nice. But it's also perfect for bruisers like the Mordekaiser, who really can do a lot with those extra stats.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about how Mordekaiser does do, like, he wants to take longer fights, and he can struggle against champs that also want to do that. That's assuming the Mordekaiser is behind. When you have 2 champions that excel in these long fights, it quickly becomes who is ahead at the moment, because they're going to survive better in the longer fights. And right now, it is absolutely the Mordekaiser.
For sure, just went back to base, managed to get himself the completed Riftmaker and a Blasting Wand, so he hadn't been back in a while, but picked himself up some really strong items, and with 30 seconds left before this first Mountain Dragon spawns, looks like that is going to be the focus for MDF as they start getting vision control down, bot lane moving up.
Right now, Dragon is going to be very, very important. 1 Dragon each, so it's not going to be an early soul for anybody. You see, it's actually the Umbral Glaive first pickup here. This one has been very popular after the buffs to it. Vandal.
Here we go. Vandal goes in with the Ghost. Doesn't get the pull onto DD, which was his choice. Does get the ultimate off, though, and the Seraphine ult is only onto the Mordekaiser in the Death Realm. He does go down to the Mace. Now, Righteous is teleported in. He's here, but the teleport is coming in now from the Tahm Kench. A little bit late. Skelly forced to run. Damage dealers may be stuck. Aatrox is now pushed out by himself, but has plenty of self-sustain going forward. Forces the flash out from Skelly. A lot of damage onto the Leona, and he goes down. Now, Dobbs is here. They're going to get a trade kill onto the Aatrox. So far, 3 kills down, and there's Corki for the knockup. This is bad. Vandal's Ghost has run out, though. Dobbs is going to chase down, but instead they choose to back away. A 3-for-1 win, and Mountain Dragon is their prize.
Yeah, and that's just not a fight you can really actively take part in. Your Seraphine went down in the Death Realm, and that is never going to help you out. The ultimate used as well, just only on that Mordekaiser. And from that point on, the Aatrox did do some great work, but that was the only front line they had left. Volibear wasn't really able to provide a whole lot, and after his cooldowns went down and his World Ender was down, they could not continue that fight into the fed Mordekaiser, into Dobbs there, and that just did not work out at all. Another Dragon going to MDF and another good couple of kills. This Mordekaiser is absurd right now.
Absolutely true. 5-0-1 now. Certainly has more gold to spend when he goes back. Second Rift Herald is on the map. We'll see if either team has Prio on it before the Baron spawns in its place. But right now it just looks like teams are kind of farming it up. Corki's lead continues to expand as he's almost got that fully stacked Man Immune. But I'm a little bit surprised by the discrepancy in the jungle. I feel like Volibear has a pretty fast clear. And I guess I'm surprised it's this big, especially with the moves that Vandal has made elsewhere on the map.
Yeah, Vandal's gonna really be the key player in this game at this point. And Mordekaiser will kind of hit a point where he will not be as useful in these team fights. He will start to get burned down by the Corki and the Senna. But that point is going to be even further and further out the more kills that he gets. The more he stays ahead, the more he's going to continue to just wipe the floor with anybody in his vicinity. And it's really a problem. Look at the difference in the jungle there. It's an entire item difference.
Yeah, 2,500 golds, more than. It's actually about 2,700 is the difference between those two junglers. And that is gigantic, especially for Volibear, who's kind of viewed as an early powerhouse who gets things rolling with his skirmishes and can kind of accelerate, almost like an Olaf in a way. Whereas the Mordekaiser, really up until 3 items, I think he feels really strong. You get that Rylai's, you get that Demonic Embrace. Meanwhile, Tristana forced to rocket jump in the mid lane. Corki's going to get that poke damage out. Now, this is a build on Corki that I haven't seen in a while. Not since the nerfs. I'm going to have to pardon that as Volibear goes in, gets the stun down, but it's just onto the Leona, double charm. And the flame from the Aatrox is huge as well. They're going to pick off 2. The Mordekaiser is going to get shut down, but right now he's got the Senna in the Death Realm. So probably gets his kill here. Nice flash away. That's huge. Meanwhile, on the other side of the team, they've cut down on the Brand, who tried to approach from the side. It's a 3 kills for Imperial right now. This is a huge fight for them as the Baron spawns. Dobbs is trading with Righteous in the top side, but it just doesn't matter. They get the shutdown onto the jungler, and they will grab the purple worm at 20 minutes on the dot.
That was such an important fight for IG. They needed to get that one, and it was a lot due to OVA Weapon X staying alive in that Mordekaiser ult, using the flash, spacing out well, and making sure that they made that work out. Didi getting a great charm onto 2 people up on that fight, and just immediately them wiping out that team from there. Vandal going down is massive, and it going on to the Seraphine is even bigger.
Yeah, Dobbs now getting predatored on by the Volibear here. They might be able to get him before he can get to his tower. Righteous doesn't quite have the World Ender off cooldown. They didn't manage to get the knock up there with this third part of the queue. So the Volibear is, I'm sorry, the Tahm Kench is going to barely be able to escape. And it's actually not a bad move for MDF, because they're able to delay these backs in this Baron push just a little bit longer.
Yeah, this is only gonna just delay, I think, the inevitable right now. The big thing is they got that Baron buff, and they got it to just completely flip up their gold income that they were dealing with at the moment. Because you look at the gold before that fight and after, MDF were in the lead by like 1 or 2K. Now it is a 1.5K gold lead, about 1K gold for IG. So that's a major swing. And I want to take another look at our gold tab here. Suddenly, the Corki is huge. He is above the Mordekaiser in gold, and Deity also above MXL now. So that's a huge shift in gold, and it helps out for that Corki to hit his late game spike that he needs to hit.
Very true. No, he is going for the mid-beast kind of poke Corki build, which I haven't seen in a while. He's going to be getting towards that Ludens as the third item pull. Barely going to miss onto the Volibear, as well as the Leona E, as he was able to dodge away. You do see Dobbs still topside with that teleport. Aatrox is going to TP in early, and they're going to try to get control over this Mountain Dragon. Remember, Dragons are just barely in the favor of MDF right now. Vandal moving forward. He's going to need to get a good pick here with the Mordekaiser to get himself some stats and be able to actually make a fight happen. He's walking up towards this Dragon. He's going to get pulled in. He needs to use the Death Realm, and is in fact going to do so. But now Chiller Frost has been rooted up, and the Sentinels over the top is a lot of damage. Righteous is here, but he is very low, and so is Stone Soft. He's going to go down. Vandal still alive, not able to pop the W, and he will go down. It's a 3-for-1 so far. Dobbs continuing to step forward. Tahm Kench is beefy. There is no smite available, so technically this Dragon could be up for grabs. See what happens here. Noble's still at very, very high HP, is continuing to poke out. They're trying to get on the Tristana. Tristana's going on to the Aatrox, and the Buster Shot not quite going to get the kill, and his top laner goes down. Here comes the Corki chasing in. It will be perhaps a delayed ace. No, the Blast Plan appears to get the Tristana out to safety, but he has had to watch the rest of his team fall. Now Corki's going to find him. Actually, I don't know if he found him. He did find him eventually. Ooh, big damage out of the Tristana explosion, but not enough, and it is a delayed ace. And Imperial is going to grab themselves their second Drake.
Yeah, this whole game has just flipped on its head in the last couple of minutes, and all just because of 2 really unfortunate fights for MDF. You saw how Vandal just went straight in and kind of tried to fight, but then you saw the rest of MDF. They were coming from 2 different sides, and they couldn't converge. They couldn't actually get together for that whole fight, so they were kind of split off and both trying to get in to help Vandal, but it closed off immediately. He had to pop the ult just to stay alive and take somebody on 1v1, but at that point, his team had tried to get in there, and it was an immediate wipe onto Skelly, and I forget who it was with him, but I think it was the Leona as well. They just got deleted off the map for trying to help out this Mordekaiser, and that's just a lack of communication. There needs to be better communication on where they're coming in and prepping for those dragon fights. It is now 2 for 2 in dragons, but IG are starting to get really, really scary here, especially with how much damage that Corki is putting out.
Corki's very scary. Another member who's been quietly having a fantastic game is Overweapon X on the Senna now, is up to 70 odd souls, so getting close to that next range increase. 3-0 and 6 and moving towards that Eclipse as well. The Senna's damage is no joke from the support position. Of course, you have the Leandries on the Seraphine, so you have 2 full damage dealers in the bot side. There are a lot of tanks, as meanwhile Righteous is going to get jumped on here. Volibear's here as well, but so is Vandal. I don't know who wins this 2v2. The stun's going to come out. They're trying to go, but it's on the tankiest member. Vandal, meanwhile, has ulted the Volibear into the Death Realm, trying to get the damage down onto him. Righteous moving toward his tower. Unstoppable goes the Volibear, trying to survive. He is going to be alive for now. Vandal still at full HP, though. Here comes the Senna, Dawning Shadow over the top for some extra healing and damage. Righteous down to about half. That is a nice charm. It's going to land on 2, but nicely timed on the Tristana jump. Isn't going to be enough. Nommed away by Dobbs. That's a great save from him. Vandal's going to fall on the front line, though. Righteous now in a 1v4 as Noble is just pouring in damage from the side. Righteous is going to fall, but this Corki is gigantic on the backside. He's 1v4. Flash forward from Leona, trying to get to the stun. Dodged away using the Valkyrie. Here comes the Tristan over the top, but she's going to get killed. Now Skelly P is forced to back away with very little health. Flash forward into the rocket. It's a double kill for the Corki. It does end up being, I believe, a 2 for 3 over the course of that long fight, and nobody really comes out with any huge advantages.
Yeah, overall, that kind of just ends up being a decently fine trade, but still, it is IG, you know, still coming out on top in these and winning out. And with the Senna scaling, it's getting scarier. The Rabadon's death cap is done on the Seraphine. The Quirky is now 6-0. Has the Ludens working on the magic pen there. The Void Staff, it's not looking good. MDF had such a great start to the game, and I thought that snowballing would help, and it would be their bot and mid that would eventually start to become really scary. But unfortunately, that's just not been the case. It's been all about the Mordekaiser, and the Mordekaiser's not had any impact in the last couple of fights. So because of that, it has just been all about this Quirky and the Senna staying alive, continuing to put damage down, and making it really difficult for anybody else to do anything because the Mordekaiser's getting spaced.
Yeah, and we talked about him needing flanks potentially as this game goes on to really get onto the priority targets. He can ult the Aatrox, which is not a bad move, as we do see Volibear going in with the Predator here, going to get the stun down, but it's just onto the support. Root's not going to land from either the Senna or the Seraphine. Vandal's here on the side. Does have the Death Realm available, is immediately going to pull in the
oh my God.
bot laner. That's a great ult over the top from the Seraphine. Vandal now in the middle of 4 members. Skelly's just standing here on the side, not even do. He does manage to get the ult down, but Righteous has come back in on the Aatrox with the teleport, and it's just going to be a cleanup from Imperial. Dobbs is on the bot side of the map going, team, what happened? As the rest of them fall.
A major wipe there in that fight, and MXL jumping in there, getting just blasted as he went in, and unable to do any kind of real damage in that fight. And once again, Vandal not getting the kill in the Death Realm. Unfortunate there, as they could not finish off anything there, and Mordekaiser's not gotten any stats off of that. So it's really big when Mordekaiser, even if he gets the kill right after the Death Realm, it's still big because he's not getting those extra stats for the rest of the fight. And it is just slowly but surely been slipping out of MDF's hands as they are now prepping for this dragon. This is the sole point for whoever picks this one up. Bounties are available for MDF, and this could be a nice gold swing if they can manage to pull this one out, but they are missing the Mordekaiser ult, and they do not have the Buster Shot either on the Tristana. Everybody else has their ult but Senna.
Well, they are going to go in here. The Tristana free-firing over the side, and the Aatrox is already dead. This
Charm?
could be really good. Vandal just needs to get a good pull. He's trying to, but he has no damage. The Nom has already been used. Chillerfrost in the front line is going to get melted as well. They pull the Volibear back in. That's a big kill. The jungler is gone. Here comes Vandal stepping forward. He's going to have that Death Realm available and does manage to get it off. He pulls it onto the Senna. Senna's still bouncing around, not being pulled back, dodges all the skills actually, but it just doesn't matter as the healing isn't available while that Senna's in the Death Realm. Here comes the Smite. It's a 4 for 2 and a win improbably goes over to MDF.
I was really scared with how that was starting to go there because it looked like they wanted to go on that Corky. I don't think you take that Corky fight because he is very, very scary. He will burst you if you are not immediately all jumping him at the same time, and he still could burst you even with that. So that is not Not the greatest there, as we are having issues. Our overlay decides to wants to focus on the fact that a mountain dragon has died, so we are gonna set that and see if we can fix that. But apologies for that, everybody. Honestly, this is such a back and forth game, and I think it's really all about whether or not these teams are executing their fights correctly. It feels like their front lines are... the fights have been completely decided on, is one of the frontliners too far forward? That time it was the Aatrox, and Righteous got bullied so bad and took so much damage before that fight even started, and the cooldowns were not there to help turn that back around. I think the more that teams are prepping for their front line to get in at the right time and talking to each other, the better that team is going to end up.
Very good point. Yeah, no, it has been a couple of times as you do see another engage kind of happening on the bot lane. Dobbs getting poked out by this Aatrox damage. He is tanking tower, but it's going to get shut off here. Dobbs already used the thick skin. I think he's going to fall as the Senna's here pumping in damage from the backside. And yeah, there's the explosion as the reset on the World Ender shows up for Righteous. A nice pick there. Vendra going to get knocked up. They're continuing to push onto this turret. Baron buff is still available on one member. The Corki, the lone target that still has that buff, and they are going to step forward, especially now with the big tank down, continuing to put damage on. The minions have fallen here. Are they actually going to be able to take the inhibitor turret? Corki tanking isn't exactly what you want. He will back out and let one of the tanky members. They are going to take the turret, and you can see a slew of souls available for the Senna to pick up. Very, very strong at the moment. In the 4v5, they are going to pick up inhibitor. These fights are so strange because I could have sworn at the dragon fight that it would be almost impossible, especially without the Death Realm, for MDF to actually pick up a win. And then in that fight, I thought MDF was in a significantly better situation to be able to pull it out, and they aren't able to get the finish. So it's just been incredibly back and forth, as you mentioned before. I can't even predict who's going to win as of right now.
It's so much about execution. These teams are just... You know, the losses happen when one team is not executing their character or their positioning correctly. This is really, really interesting, honestly. I'm so curious how the rest of this game is going to go, because it's just going to matter who's going in.
Here we go. They're going to get immediate stun down and the immediate death onto the support here. But into the death realm goes the Mordekaiser, but it doesn't really matter. It's just the Volibear. He will be able to get that kill, and it's nice. There comes the Senna ult over the top, trying to save his teammate. Not going to be able to do so. Vandel's going to get the heal from the W shield. Encore going to fly wide. That's not good. The interrupt onto the Tristana jump, but is able to flash away. Maybe has some healing. Gets the Buster shot off, and it's a triple kill. But the brand has been untouched. The ultimate and the passive just spraying across the team of Imperial. Flash away for Noble. He's going to get shut down. Does pick up two. Does the Seraphine, though. Great use of the character by Dia. He's the lone member left. W not going to land from Dobbs. Is he going to be able to chase down? No mana left for the Seraphine here. Dobbs does have the Force of Nature, so a little bit of extra movement speed. And the W will be off cooldown somewhat shortly. They're still looking for it. Nice root coming out of the Seraphine with the last of her mana. W just barely over the wall. Needs to get a Q. No flash for a few seconds, and it's not going to be enough. But still, 4 members of Imperial fall in a big win for MDF.
A big win for MDF at a very crucial moment here. They need to have somebody get to the bot side ASAP and shove that out, because not only do they have their soul point coming up in 40 seconds, but Baron in 30. They want to get these lanes out. It's great that they're getting this top lane out, but they need to get everything pushed so that they can move up. Unfortunately, they weren't in a position to actually do that, and because of that, they're not actually going to be ready for these objective fights. It is still IG that gets there first and makes it happen. So this is still anybody's game. And despite the fights, there's not enough to be done about the win afterwards.
Very good point. It's a 4,500 gold lead for Imperial right now. They have very clear vision control. This would not be their soul. This would put them on soul point. And I feel like this is an okay dragon to give You have a lot of gold available in the bot side of the map. Now, they are walking over. It's going to be a little too late. They're going to be spotted on vision as well. This is a great flank, but the Corki is going to be pulled into the death realm immediately. Not where you want to be. Vandro moving forward. Remember, no flash available on this Corki. He's moving forward. Vandro's getting shredded, though, and the Corki is going to trade 1 for 1. Meanwhile, a great Encore is going to catch 3. That's huge. Of the remaining 4, Dobbs goes in, but the rest of his team is down behind him. It's a huge win for Imperial. They're continuing to tear through this. Tahm Kenchi will be the last to fall, and this may be the fight that finally breaks this game open. Baron's on the table, as well as the open inhibitor in the bot lane.
That is so unfortunate there, as it is just a pretty clean wipe all around for the side of IG. And they're going to try and push in with, they don't have the wave there just yet. I think they're going to have time. They still have a good long while on these objective fights here, or on these death timers rather, that are going to be pushing in on that tower. They're getting damage down. I think that may be the game.
We'll see. There's 2 seconds left on this Leona. 5 on the carries that can actually go in. Leona going to try to get there. The inhibitor, the Nexus is exposed. Righteous is going in. Vandal going to be dodged away from. The Nexus is falling, and it will go down. Imperium, in a crazy back and forth game, take game 1.
Yeah, that was amazing back and forth fighting there from both sides. And ultimately, it was just those small mistakes that really caught out a lot of those players. It just felt like one going too far forward, not ready for a fight, trying to check something that they shouldn't be checking alone. It was never put together in the right time there in the late game for MDF, barring a couple of moments where we saw IG make the same mistake. And that's maybe the story of the night. What are these teams going to do? Positioning mistakes? Are they going to be able to come back from those and figure out what exactly went wrong, and how do we fix that as a team?
Excellent points there. I absolutely agree. Positioning individual, it almost felt like it's the kind of game. In addition to, I feel like Seraphine shows some really strong power in this. I think that's going to become a power pick across the rest of the draft, potentially the Senna as well. There were some interesting picks from MDF, but I feel like the power picks kind of remain on the side of Imperium. We'll have to see if that changes as we move on to game 2. It's a 1-0 series so far, but in a best of 5, anything can happen. Game 2 coming up next. Alrighty, folks, here we go. Back for game 2. The teams have switched sides. We will now have MDF on the blue and IG over on the red. And after a game 1 that was pretty much anybody's for a huge part of the game, what do you expect to see in this second game in terms of pick bans? Any changes, or do you any power picks rising?
I can see changes happening. I don't think changes need to happen. I think more than anything, it's more about how the teams played and what choices they made in game and the execution of said things. So I wouldn't mind seeing similar compositions all around from all the players. Just overall, what I want to see is smarter positioning, smarter understanding of kind of prepping yourself for objectives. I want to see better play, really, from the teams, not anything in terms of the draft itself. I do kind of like that MDF are taking away the Seraphine and the Corki. I think those were the two really big strong points in IG's composition there, because they couldn't deal with the Corki once he got ahead. The Seraphine, they didn't really get as much pressure on in the early game as they wanted. They're gonna get to pick the Lucian here, which they themselves banned away in game 1, so it's clear they very, very highly prioritize this Lucian.
Indeed, and I think it is a flex pick. I would imagine it can definitely go between Skelly P and Morgana and Lilia in the mid lane there. Nami going to be taken away as a denial. That's a nice adaptation here. And a Xayah as well. I assume the lethality Xayah has been so prevalent. The Seraphine, I'm a little bit surprised they just didn't first pick it on the blue side. I think it's powerful enough to warrant that. But
they do have they have MXL. I don't think he wants... If there's an enchanter that he wants to play as an AD carry, it is not Seraphine. I will tell you that much. But we will get into that if and when that happens. You mentioned it being the lethality Xayah, and I don't think you're wrong on that. These sons of guns. Goodness. Okay. So...
It's happening.
Okay.
God.
Brennan, yeah.
1,000, take us through
Yeah.
this.
All right. So Brennan is what we call a degenerate. In that he likes to play Yuumi, but not how most people like to play Yuumi. He plays it as on hit Yuumi, where he goes Kraken Slayer and PTA, and it's god awful, and I don't know why he subjects us to this, but I have to analytically break it down like it is something that requires brain cells to actually figure out. So we are going to see some crazy stuff going on. I really do want to touch on the Xayah, though, because Xayah's build has changed. Or the build has slightly changed. Airy is no longer what you generally are going to go. Generally, you want to go the lethal tempo, and you do max the E. You still do build the lethality. It just becomes a lot more on the pullback of the feathers rather than the actual damage put out. It's a minor thing, but with the nerfs that she got, a lot of players have shifted to that as opposed to just the Q max with the poke on the Airy.
Okay, gotcha. That is excellent information. No, we do see Volibear, I assume, going jungle for Vandal. Been a very powerful pick this game. And then Ornn, who I mentioned briefly last game, but the Forge will be up in the top side. Some classic answers to it in the Mordekaiser and the Camille banned away, as well as the mid lane being focused out by MDF here, getting rid of the Vigard. Ahri, both very strong laners this patch.
Yeah, so the Ornn, once again, IG going for a pretty standard overall composition. It's pretty like straightforward and pretty, comparable to what you would see in really high tier teams. The Lilia is a little bit, out there, but not the craziest thing. The Ornn has been very popular. Xayah has obviously been a really strong pick for a long time. And Nami has always kind of just been on the fringe of being really good in a meta composition, but really she's just been sticking with that, sticking with the kind of solo queue power that she's had. I'm curious to know whether this is going to be the Airy Nami or if this is going to be the Electrocute just for that extra lane pressure. Wukong is being taken here. Now, once again, Volibear still can go in either lane position. Wukong got buffs recently to make him pick a pickable jungler. And I don't entirely know how good it is. From what I understand, it's pretty solid. But it's still gonna be curious what's gonna happen there. Lux is going to be the final, but we don't know where anybody's going. For God's sake.
The Yuumi is such a crazy addition too. It could be Yuumi Lux bot lane with the Lucian mid. The Lucian could be bot. We already talked about the Volibear.
Lucian's not bot. I know for a fact.
Not bot. Okay. Well, what if Chiller wants to pilot the Lucian? Maybe that's not an option.
I don't think it's gonna be that, because here's the thing: it's not gonna be a support Lucian.
It could be AP support Lucian. I don't think that's
no, that will hurt me even more. As we do get the Orianna lock-in here. This is actually interesting because Lux is one of the matchups that Orianna really dislikes playing up against. Lucian is okay to play up against. Because of the shorter range, Orianna can generally stay away from the Lucian, but gank pressure will turn that tide pretty quickly. And if you have a Volibear jungle, that's gonna be a lane that you're gonna look to gank pretty early on. Even the Wukong is capable. They could just jump in on her and do some damage. But Lux specifically, if it is a Lux mid lane, just like if they do some really, really weird stuff, I don't know. I'm expecting it to be bot lane, but if it is a mid lane Lux, that sucks. That sucks to play against. Orianna hates going up against poke lanes because as a mage, she's generally shorter ranged, and that works kind of both ways. She can't stop people from diving her very well until 6, and she can't stop people from poking her out at any point in the game.
Nope, the shield only mitigates so much, and you burn through your mana real fast in that lane. I like that analysis. I think it's true. Now, I believe Lucian, back, if I'm remembering correctly, I'm going to show my age here. Back, was it season 6 that Lucian mid was the counter pick to the Orianna? It was the year where Perks got the solo kill on Faker, if I'm remembering correctly. I may be misremembering that, but I think it's entirely going to depend on the players. So I don't even know why I brought that up. All right, so Orianna doesn't have a great ball transfer system here. You can have the Ornn kind of dash in, but other than that, it becomes a little bit trickier for her to use that. It's definitely not as easy as it could be.
Yes, however, she's up against a team that wants to dive. Volibear Wukong is a team that wants to jump in on the fight. They want to be the ones engaging on it. And you do have Lilia, who has the move speed. If you do shield her, you can have her run in and position it in a pretty good spot. While it isn't a dash to like be like, all right, we're gonna just go in and like a Malphite, it's not as great, but it is still a pretty solid option, as the Volibear is going to be going up in the top lane against the Ornn. I think that's probably the better option here, because you do not like the idea of a Wukong having to fight that Ornn. That will very quickly outscale him, and not one you want to deal with.
No, Wukong really thrives in AD matchups where he can kind of take advantage of his passive, which gives him so much extra armor. It does actually make this Lilia matchup even more interesting. I think if they want to, Stone Made Soft is going to have free reign to kind of invade and duel this Wukong in his jungle. The extra movement speed really kind of gets her away from his repeated auto attacks, which is what he needs to do damage. And he only gets the one E dash, and she just burns straight through all of his HP. So it'll be interesting to see how that changes the jungle dynamics, which was pretty heavily in favor of Vandal in game 1.
Yeah, I mean, the Volibear will be able to like at least hopefully keep trades. It kind of depends. With this, you do want to kind of poke out the Volibear more. Don't want to take those consistent engages, because Volibear does really, really well into those. As are currently seeing the Lux in the mid here, which I think is the rougher matchup for the Orianna here, and that now. They can still switch things. Don't be surprised. Brennan absolutely will toy with my brain in ways to just completely mess me up, as he is currently going to lock that into. That means the Lucian is currently going to be locked in by the support. No, hold on. I'm not going to mention anything yet. We're going to wait for the lock in here. But yeah.
The baits are strong.
The baits
with
are
the
strong.
Masters of Cheese.
Yeah.
I do approve of that name, by the way. What a fantastic! If you're gonna do this in draft, they have the the kindness to let us know in advance.
Just
maybe something that we're looking at. Now they've swapped. So now Lucian is sitting in Brennan's hands in the bot lane.
Yeah.
With 44 seconds. I'm getting baited too.
Yeah.
It's
so
almost...
I'm going to hold off. 20 seconds is the lock in here, and I'm not going to start talking about things until we actually start loading in, because I don't want to give away things in case people are listening. They should not be watching. But just in case. But right now, looking across here, this is... So Orianna's going to have a terrible time in that mid lane. It's just constant poke, and you don't even need to gank that anymore. Now you do have the opportunity to gank that Ornn very early, get that Volibear ahead, and allow him to just keep constant pressure on that top side. I'm also going to be looking at the Volibear build. A lot of solo lane Volibears are going for that Riftmaker, Nashor's Tooth, kind of like more damage heavy AP build. And that'll be interesting to see. It will make him a little bit better on fighting that Ornn, even into the later stages of that laning phase. As we are locked in, players are going in. So I knew as soon as I saw the Lucian picked, I knew that it was going to be a Lucian AD carry. And the reason I say that is because it was heal exhaust at the time on Chiller Frost. So I was like looking at that and I'm like, that's not okay. It's absolutely going to be the Yuumi support. And it is the... for a while, I was concerned because Deity and OVA Weapon X both had Exhaust, which scared me, but it is the Exhaust Ignite. So both of these bot lanes here are just going to be looking to brawl. There is still technically the better summoner spell advantage on the side of MDF because they have the Yuumi who doesn't need the flash.
Definitely better combat summoners there. You have an advantage on me. I do not have the little overlay that lets us know summoner spells.
Yes.
So.
And that is on stream. That is on stream, so I did not want to say anything and give anything away until we started loading into the game, because some people like to watch the stream when they shouldn't be watching the stream. That's not okay. Stop doing that.
Oh dear, all kinds of problems. All right, so we talked about the Volibear. I also think Press the Attack Divine Thunder is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to know. I don't know if Yuumi... I assume she goes more support these days rather than straight AP.
Yes.
So maybe just the Lux for AP may not be enough damage, and so I kind of like the idea of the Riftmaker Nashor's Tooth.
Mm-hmm.
But it gets very interesting, so we'll keep our eyes on that one as well. All right, prediction time. After all of the shenanigans, which comp do you favor going into the second game here?
This is tough. I want to give MDF the composition here. I think they've got a overall like stronger laning phase across the board. Lucian, Yuumi, it can be really scary because you boost up that Lucian and you get some really, really nasty, scary stuff from his passive, and that Orianna is not going to get very much help because you have a Lilia jungle. MDF, the biggest question that I have now is, what do you do for engagement potential, and what do you do to make sure that you're not mispositioning? So composition wise, I want to say MDF, but as far as the actual players, I think IG is still looking a little bit stronger right now.
I can't argue with that. I do think this Orianna hates her life, though, because she has no easy way to get the ball in. She has a rough laning matchup against the Lux, and she doesn't have a great target with that Shockwave anyway. Pretty much the best she's going to be able to do, it would appear, is to pull those two front lines off her team. And so it's really, I think this boils down to Noble. If he puts on a performance like he had last game, I think Imperial can win this one going away. But I think compositionally, I am with MDF here. I think they have an ease of execution that is just a little bit different and a little bit better than Imperium's. But we're going to take a quick break before we get into game here. Game 2 coming up. So far, Imperial is up 1-0. That could change as the Yuumi has come out for MDF here in game 2. Don't go anywhere. All right, ladies and germs, we are back with Game 2 here. Imperial up 1-0 in the series, best of 5, so maybe a long one for us tonight as we do see both teams kind of grouping in sets of 4 as the lone Yumi, which is not the one I would have chosen to be the lone 4 is going to go get a ward down, and then is probably looking to base and go ahead and grab her partner, although the invade continues to go on in the top side. Groups of members, but it looks like nobody is going to find each other.
Yeah, so far, it is defensive positioning, but they are sticking on that bot side, making sure they do not invade that blue buff so that Lilia can get that. Pretty important, actually, to make sure they do get that blue buff secured for the Lilia. She is one of the few junglers that is still pretty mana hungry early on. So good stuff on that, but that does mean they do get the free wards on that top side, and not just on the red buff, but also on the blue buff there. Wards all around. Now, this is great for the early game, but it also means that they are not going to have wards to stop potential jungle ganks. I think this is fine, though, because you are looking at a Yuumi who is not known for, or sorry, not a Yuumi, a Lilia, which is not known for her early gank presence. So overall, I think this is a pretty smart use of words to make sure that they are kind of using them to the best of their ability.
I like it. Yeah, I agree. Lilia does have some set up in the top side of the map, I would say. Orianna not so much, but the Ornn does have some decent gank set up here. As you do see early level 2 gank from Wukong, it's immediate flash blown, as well as the ignite. Is Lucian going to be able to get the last one? It doesn't go over as Deity barely stays alive. It's a nice cheese coming out from the masters of it, but 2 flashes blown, and they aren't quite able to pick up first blood.
Oh, that is disappointing there. Now, still 2 flashes blown, and the fact that they, didn't have to burn they don't have a heal to burn means one wrong move there will get a nice kill for the Lucian. Still not the end of the world, and I think they're pretty happy with that, but it feels so bad that you end up not getting the kill from that.
They do blow both flashes, which I guess potentially opens up for a repeat gank, and exhaust is still available for you, so it's going to be interesting to watch these next few minutes. I think Lucian is one of those early laners that can just be incredibly oppressive if playing with an advantage, and it seems like he has one right now. Orianna getting the early push here in the mid lane, the early pressure in this matchup isn't something I exactly expected. That's a nice trade coming out of Dobbs onto Righteous, forced to dash away. Is going to keep himself safe, but that lane is pushing against him. Here we go. Let's see what's happening. Dash forward in from the Lucian is going to take some feather damage. Nice heal coming out, though. And that will be all. So Lilia and Wukong going to meet in the river here. Wukong trying to pick up this scuttle, and he will be contested for it. So looks like Wukong is just going to be able to pick it up, though. Lilia forced to back away. They're looking on this Lux here, who may have stepped out of line. Nope, she's going to back off. And we continue with plenty of threats of action, but no actual action so far.
Yeah, I mean, if you had an engaged support level 2 on that Lucian for that bush cheese, that would have worked out so much better. But unfortunately, it is just the Yuumi, so not able to get much out of that. So far, Volibear doing great into this Ornn, which is to be expected in the early game. The Grasp does signify to me that this is going to be the AP build instead of that Divine Sunder kind of thing, as it does give a little bit more beefiness to that Volibear, where they don't have a straight up tank, and you are building less tanky stats with that AP build. So I like that little pickup there, and so far the Orianna actually doing pretty okay into the Lux.
She is. Lilia should topside now is going to get the passive down with the blows from the Q.
Good
Dash
flash.
forward. It's a great flash from Dobbs. Is going to get himself out to safety. And we'll see if they can punish that later. But with level 5, he'll have the Stormbringer pretty soon. That's a nice pull as the Wukong has showed bot again. Flashes are not off cooldown. Nice use of the W to get away from the bubble, but the heal from Nami might be just enough as, yeah, Lucian and Yuumi weren't quite able to catch up in time to put out any real damage. So the gank shows up, but it doesn't do a whole lot here. Nice poke from Skelly. It's going to get some damage onto the Orianna. Now that there's a few levels in that Lucent Singularity, I think we'll probably see the lane start to shift a little bit more in the Lux's favor.
Very possibly here. And I think really the big thing is just that bot lane doesn't have... If you had setup for that, ganking that lane is great pre-6, but without the Wukong knockup, there's really nothing you can do. You saw that Feather Pool hit, and then the Lucian could not follow up. Yumi's not going to do anything to help with that, and then just a level 3 or 4 Wukong not going to accomplish a whole lot. Chiller Frost unable to jump on.
Yeah, he's got the dash. The heal comes out as well as the exhaust from the Lucian. They're going heavy onto the Xayah, and they're actually going to be able to trade back the win. It looks like a double kill will be going over. Q not quite going to land, dodges away from the Yumi damage. Lightbringer so close, he finishes it off with the W. A double kill in the bot side for MDF, and they'll open up our kill score.
And that's the difference of the Yumi summoner spells there. You had the Ignite and the heal and the exhaust for that fight. You did not have anything similar to that in terms of combat summoner spells in response. So overall, the summoner spell difference becomes massive there, and the Lucian and Yumi get 2 kills. That's a great turnaround and allow MDF to have some really strong pressure bot side after forcing back the Xayah early on, and now they get the kill. Look at the CS differential on that bot side.
I was just going to point that out. It's gigantic. Almost 20 CS at 6 minutes is really unheard of, I would say, in a lot of situations without extreme jungle. Now, they have gotten a couple of ganks down to the bot side, but that is huge for a Lucian who needs to snowball early. This is about the best early game you could ask for.
Abs are unfortunately having some problems here. See if I can fix that for us.
There we go. While we're working on that, we do see Lilia move down towards the bot side and is able to clean up that first Infernal Dragon. Meanwhile, we do see that Volibear has picked up Machine, so it looks like he may actually go the Sunderer build. After all, I guess it's possible that you look to do that into an AP build. Early Sheen is a lot of power, so there are definitely a lot of characters, but I don't think Lichbane is usually strong enough to indicate early Sheen.
Yeah, so most likely just going to be trying to get as beefy as possible. And the Divine Sunder isn't bad here into the Ornn either. As we do take a look at the gold there, Lucian massively ahead, and the Lux still going even there and able to kind of pull a little bit ahead thanks to that first strike. Doing a great job so far on that. I'm hoping now that we're going to start to see a little bit more action as the level 6s come through, not just for the solo laners rather, but for the junglers as well, because these are really influential teamfight ultimates.
Agreed. Orianna roaming towards the bot side of the map. Does have that shockwave available, but not going to do anything. Lilia's here in the top side. Now Ornn is going to call Follow the Forge God. He's going to go down. Doesn't get the double proc. The ultimate is available for the Volibear Stormbringer. Flash forward from the Ornn into Q. Gets the slow, and Righteous will finish it off with a Grasp Auto. A nice gang into the top side from Stone Made Soft. They punish the overextension of the Volibear. However, their bot lane... Yep, Cyclone's up. They may be looking for the dive here. Deity low. No, he doesn't have the Feather Storm yet. In fact, but that's a great bubble going to come up. Flash away is perfect, and the level 6 comes in as well. Both flashes forced. Lucian goes down. Nothing gained. A disaster in the bot lane for MDF.
Major loss for the bot side for MDF after they had such a huge lead. It is just taken away there. And not only that, but they also lose up on the top side with that gank. They do get the kill on the Volibear despite him using the ult to try and get away. And then that kill on the Lucian, getting hit by the bubble, by the feathers, and then just getting killed immediately. That is extremely bad for MDF, and they basically lost all of the lead that they have put together for themselves in those first couple of minutes.
Not a great trade. Definitely a lot of time to go. I do see that we have both Longsword and Dagger, so this may actually be full crit Xayah coming out this game. The extra safety from the Featherstorm, maybe thinking that was important for the Wukong gauge. It definitely helped out a lot in that last dive, was able to get it halfway through the fight, and forces the Wukong's flash because of it, which is nice. So yeah, interesting to see some of the builds going on here, as the two beefy members in the top side will trade, but I don't expect to see many more kills without jungle intervention.
Well, we're looking like we might get some kind of jungle intervention as Lilia's taking Scuttle Crab here.
Dom's just going to be spotted. Yeah. Yep, nothing doing there. As we do look at the junglers, a few camps ahead for the Lilia, not a huge surprise. She has always been a very fast clear. Rift Herald as well going over, which actually, you're right, is pretty much all of the camps.
Wait a second. Ornn has rushed a Frozen Heart.
I believe now I am not super up to date on builds, but I believe Frozen Heart is incredibly strong, and at least for a few patches, it was being rushed as an incredibly powerful item.
Yes. I like it. It was more my point.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, here they go again as the Lilia comes out. Lilting Lullaby going to come up, makes an easy knock-up for the Call of the Forge God. Slow's coming out as well. Lilia is probably going to be gifted this one and will clean it up with the auto. So another gank onto the top side. Once again, no flash, no ultimate off cooldown just yet. It is a little bit longer than Call of the Forge God, and that does mean that Dobbs is going to fall for a second time.
Yeah, this Lilia pressure up on the top side is huge because Volibear really is just kind of predicated on getting that strong early lead. And he was doing so early on until the Lilia started showing up, and that has kind of just all gone to the wayside. And the Ornn is very quickly starting to hit that level 13 mark where he's going to put some items into his pocket and feel pretty good about that. Now, because he did not rush the Mythic, he's not going to get his own upgrade immediately, but I still do like the Frozen Heart pickup here because of not only the Volibear, but your jungler that you're going to be dealing with is the Wukong, and that is a lot of not only auto attack damage, but damage that is based on them being able to auto attack fairly quickly. Vandrel might be looking.
Here we go. They do get the Rift Herald charge. Yep, Vandrel wanted in, uses the dash, the W invisibility, but nothing more going to come of that. They'll just clean up several more plates for their bot lane here. Top laners do have teleport, but it's not unlocked just yet. So is going to be... they'll have to go to turrets if they're going to make this happen around this Ocean Dragon fight, which is where both teams are kind of setting the line of scrimmage at the moment.
And you can see this Volibear still doing really well in this.
Oh, he can turn off the turret. This could be dangerous. Knockup is going to come through. Is it going to be
tanking?
Flash isn't off cooldown. Oh, the door is up again. The knockup comes through. One more auto for the brittle damage. He does get it with the Bellows Breath. Righteous finishes off a solo kill and a dive gone wrong for Dobbs on the top side.
Yeah, that is sleep.
Sleep is good. Flash forward into the Q is going to land. Cyclone to scare him away. Flash forward into the Shockwave from Orianna. Is it going to be enough to kill the clone? The E's going to come out. Lilia passive doing a lot. Nice smite from Vandrel, but not going to be enough. He will get chased down for his first death of the game. And once again, Imperium starting to open up a little bit of a lead here and look to get their second dragon as well.
Imperial is looking pretty good here as they have gotten an early lead with a composition that I would argue scales better. This is not what you want to see from a Wukong jungle, from a Volibear top. And I wanted to kind of discuss that dive. Volibear, his early level 6 is not really useful at solo diving unless they're already extremely low and you just want to make sure you don't trade when you dive. But you can't just go in and expect to stay under the tower because you're still going to be the one that is tanking it up afterwards. As it's got to be a fight beforehand. Get that Ornn low to the point where he is completely going to die as you dive in on him.
Always a risky play diving tanks in the top side, regardless of how many players you have. Ornn in particular feels like with the multiple knockups now, we're going to force the flash out of the Nami as the final spark comes out. Here comes the knock. Oh, that's really good. Righteous is here, though, at a bad time, but doesn't get the knockup exactly. Ignite goes down onto Skelly. Is going to get a lot of damage onto the Nami, still alive. Now Ornn in the front line getting down, though. Yuumi going to get the shutdown there. That's a big kill, and an overextension results in not only the teleport being blown, but 2 kills going over to MTL and a bunch of time for this Volibear on the top lane. A big win for them.
Massive turnaround on that bot side and kind of disregarding the amount of pressure Yuumi can just stave off with her heals. They went in, they thought, all right, well, they're going in, they're blowing everything out now. And Skelly was really far forward, but Yuumi heals with the Moonstone do mean that they can turn fights around pretty effectively as long as they survive the initial burst. And now Dobbs going to get this top lane tower thanks to the fact that the turret plates had gone down. Nice turnaround and a massive gold switch. Once again, these teams just sticking about even, going tit for tat constantly.
It's incredible to watch how close he's been. Oh, DD doesn't know they're still here. He's going to get jumped on. Nami is here as well. Immediately forces out the Feather Storm. Aqua Prison going to fly wide, but DD is able to get himself out with that ultimate. Doesn't have that for quite a while, though. Feather Storm, very long cooldown at the first level. And even though they're getting closer to this 11, level 8, not quite going to cut it. Now, we got Ocean Soul for this game. And we have a 200, 300-ish gold lead currently for MDL, and that is all thanks to all of the back and forth that's been going on.
Yeah, it's very much anybody's game right now, but I still think IG are in a really comfortable spot because they're gonna scale really well. They're going to have that team fight that is really, really potent. With this Xayah able to just constantly threaten with this damage that she's going to put out, and like you mentioned, the early levels of that ultimate are pretty long. They're even longer when you're going for the on-hit build, when you're going for the crit build, because you're not building any lethality, which generally also has a lot of cooldown reduction. So you're losing out on that survivability in favor of going for more consistent damage possibilities. I honestly think the lethality build with lethal tempo would have been the better option in this, just because you're not looking at a hard tank and you're still going to burn through people pretty effectively.
I agree. I think just crit in general, outside of a few champions, isn't the best at the moment, I would say. And so, oh, here we go. There's the final chapter going to be flashed forward from the Lucian, trying to get a nice Aqua Prison is really important. Now Ova may be in trouble here. Teleport coming in from the mid laner. This is the Orianna. The culling goes out, isn't going to land, do too much damage. Orianna gets a nice dash away from the Shockwave, as that's going to go wide. Now Noble forced to back away with no ultimate, and Lux and Lucian are, Lush and Wukong are on the way. Now Final Spark is available for this Lux, as Orianna trying to speed herself up. Lucian Singularity not going to land. Flashes away from the dash. Here comes the Cyclone over the top. The Featherstorm is back up again. Exhaust comes down, but it's not enough damage. Now Vandal has used all his dashes. Isn't going to be able to pick up another one. Meanwhile, Lilia on the top side is going to try to clean something else up. Knockup not going to land on a Dobbs, and it looks like he will get himself out with the Stormbringer. So a couple of kills on the bot side of the map in a nice play is going to result in a lead for MDL.
Yeah, and they're going to use this repair top side. I kind of think they could have taken the tower first. I think this first charge is a little bit wasted by that, but still, it is great that they're going to be able to get a second charge almost assuredly, because there is no response, and this Volibear is not in a position where he can realistically stay under the tower. He's going to try and clear as best he can, but that's a second tower that's getting taken down. Dobbs?
And he's going back in like he wants it. Going to get knocked up. The Lilting Lilith going to come out. Goes to sleep. But the Lilia is... I'm sorry, not the Lilia. The Cats. The Yumi is there. And she's able to clean that up. Another kill goes over to this Lucian, who's now 3-1 and 2. Oh my goodness. The Final Spark is so much damage. He just this one auto flash over the wall from Skelly. And he finishes off a solo kill onto the Orianna. A fantastic play from this Lux. Looked had a little bit of a tough time in the first game on the brand, looking much stronger this second game here. And MDF takes about a 2K gold lead into the mid game.
Holy moly. Okay, so let's break down everything that just happened here, because they got kills bot side. They tried to answer that back on the top side. Did not get the kill, but got one turret. And then they got the charge in. Tried to force in that second part, but they didn't take into account that because of the kills and the tower being taken down bot side, that bot lane is going to leave and go back up to help top side. And they couldn't keep that timer in their head well enough in order to back off in time, and Yuumi getting there just in time to help out. Meanwhile, you also saw them going for the dragon with the Wukong on it, and I thought it was greeting. Oh,
here we go. Cyclone engaged in the mid lane. Chillerfrost is going to go on a rampage. 4 kills onto this Yuumi. However, it's getting punished really hard. The knockup comes out onto the Yuumi. A great engage from the side from the Ornn, and 3 quick kills go the way of Imperial. And what else would it be in this series if not a back and forth as Imperial cleans up?
I'm gonna be real, this is exactly what we didn't want to see from MDF. We talked about what this composition is really good against, and IG's composition is really good against engage. You engage on them, Xayah won't die, the shockwave comes through, the Ornn will stall things out forever. This is a composition you cannot just straight up engage on. It has to be skirmishes, and it has to be starting fights where people aren't entirely in position to disengage as a unit. If you try and fight them all at once, the tidal wave's gonna come, the feather storm's gonna come, the shockwave's gonna come, and you're never actually going to get this Wukong and this Volibear in there because they're not tanks. They can't stay in that long, especially if they're stunned and not using their abilities to get that extra defensive stats they usually get.
Yeah, Wukong flash committing for the support. Was it the flash or was it just the invisibility dash? But going in very hard on the Nami, and they while they were able to get that early kill, they weren't able to. I mean, the Nami, other than the tidal wave, doesn't offer a ton of utility. A little bit of a heal, maybe an Aqua Prison as disengage. But overall, I feel like your target needs to be someone who has a lot more of the damage, and they just weren't able to get it in that fight. Got a little too close to the turret, and took a little bit of a beating for their trouble. We do see now as outer turrets are starting to fall, we're seeing a little bit more of different lane assignments. Now here's the really annoying thing about Yuumi. I talked about how she had 4 kills, which I hadn't noticed until she went on a rampage in that fight. She now basically just gets to sit on whoever the strongest member is, regardless of how bot lane goes, and just make them a better version of themselves.
Yeah, Yuumi is now a really scary champion to really deal with because, yeah, she will be a threat and a half to deal with when she is on this Wukong that's diving in, when she's keeping this Lucian alive or this Lux getting jumped on. There's so much ability to stay alive here with this Yuumi on the back of whoever she is on. It's gonna be very difficult, and I think honestly both teams need to be careful how much they engage on fights.
Towers teleporting into the fight in the mid lane while the 2 top laners are going at it. Final spark going to come out. A lot of damage, but Orion Donna doesn't quite fall. Now, final chapter has come out. Deity's going to go back in, but get knocked up immediately, have to flash away. He gets the feather pull and kills 2. Morgana x Lilia is backing off, has the Yuumi still on. It's a 2-for-1 so far. Lilia wants to go in, doesn't have the wilting lullaby. It's so much the passive is going to tick down, but Lucian will stay alive with the Yuumi on top of him. It is, however, a win for Imperium as they pick up an extra kill and get the mid lane tower to boot.
Yeah, it's really tough. Once again, the team fight power. If these ultimates are up, you can't really fight this team. They tried to dive in, and it worked out better than before. I will give credit where it is due, but they still are just not able to get onto this backline. They keep diving in. You have to fight when that Feather Storm is down, and that's not happening. They need to burn it first and then go in for a team fight. If these teams just keep waiting and butting heads with all the cooldowns available, MDF are never going to win that. They have to fight more often. They need to skirmish a lot more and make sure that they are taking fights with their basic cooldowns because they have the better champions with that.
This is crazy. Immediate pick coming out from the final chapter. Now the Oriana's in trouble. Flash forward from the Volibear, going to get the stun, but the Aqua Prison is nice, and they managed to keep him alive. However, the jungler has fallen. And yeah, Call of the Forge God has gone down. All the ultimates are gone. You still have the tidal wave, but that's all in no jungle. It means that it looks like MDF is going to be able to turn onto this dragon. They get themselves the second of their Hextech Soul. And where else would we be but basically even gold state again, as it just, I can never predict how these fights are going to go. I saw Wukong go through the Hextech gate into the red side with no vision. I thought I didn't get
that was
punished.
timing.
It ended up being a fantastic play. Yeah.
They were aware of that timing and made sure to get there. They knew they could get there before the enemy team actually showed up, and they did exactly what I wanted them to do. They got the pick and they backed out. They didn't overforce it with all the other ultimates available, because they are turning onto the Baron right now. This should be pretty free. Deity.
Feather Storm, gonna try to get the pull, not quite enough.
Skelly.
And the ultimate comes out as well. Forces the flash out of the Lux, so stayed a little bit too close. But they are going to clean themselves up the purple worm at 24 minutes. 400 gold difference, as it looks like they're going to try to stop the backs here. A lot of low health bars, but the Baron Empowered Recall does mean they're able to get themselves away. So they have the Baron buff, but all 3 lanes are pushing into them right now. It's going to be really tough to tell whether they get much more than that outer turret still standing in mid.
Yeah, it is very, very tough now for Imperial to actually get anything done for the next couple of minutes. I want to see more from MDF on what they just did. The pick and back away. They have incredible power on all their players. They can just stay split up, force these teams, or force this opponent to fight them on multiple levels as opposed to a full unit. That is exactly what MDF want. They don't want these full-on team fights. And right now, they're looking like they might get a lot of people into that mid lane.
Yeah, here, Call of the Forge guy gonna come out. Ult's gonna go wide though, just hits onto the minion wave as Lilia's gonna back out. Vandal's sticking around. You have the Lux as well. The engage is gonna come out as Noble didn't respect the fact that the enemy team could be hiding in the bush. Gonna get taken down with the Cyclone. Teleport in from the Volibear, and now you've got 5 men strong barreling down mid. Baron empowered minions in tow.
Yeah, this is... Oof. They can't engage on this. Lux is...
This Lux, you have so much poke.
Yeah.
Baron minions continue to siege. They are going to get passive down onto the Lux, so Lilting Lullaby could come out, but they're kind of just... I feel like you really need Call of the Forge God to make this work outside of a tremendous flank from the Lilia, and they simply don't have the means to right now. They are able to clean up that tier 2. Meanwhile, the Volibear has pushed out the bot side, and he's going to go ahead and grab himself another turret as well. So 3 turrets falling so far with this Baron buff has given them a lot more of a gold lead than they had just a few minutes before.
It's really starting to get a little scary now as... Oh, boy. The thing is, a miss on that, not a big deal. Lux ult cooldown is, as we do check, just... already a quarterback. It is 31 seconds. It is 31 seconds, and she's still not level 16. That's terrifying. She can basically just constantly throw these ults down and just look for grabs on that. This is now an extremely scary composition to be constantly just waiting for an engage on, because they can just poke you out now with the Lux alone. You look across the items being built here, no MR to be seen. There is the Mythic from the Ornn. That is it. Everything else is either damage or armor based, and this Lux has absolute, just complete control. If she hits somebody and she blows everything onto them, they're going to take a bunch of damage and probably die unless you're the Ornn.
Very good point. Yeah, there's a lot of pick potential with this comp that I hadn't seen before. Vengeful has actually been using the Cyclone a lot more on single targets. And I think it actually has really benefited them in a lot of these situations to not necessarily go for the huge wombo combo necessarily, but just being able to single out one person and blow them up can really, it makes the team fight a lot more difficult for Imperial. And now we see dragon spawning in 30 seconds, teams fighting over vision. So far, MDF has control of this river and the gold lead, but as we've seen in the previous hour, that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Look, it's always about execution with these two squads. I think it has been a little bit of MDF not recognizing what their composition is great at, as they are going to get nice damage. I mean, look, even on the Ornn, that's about a quarter of his HP gone.
Yeah, a lot of poke coming out too. Yuumi going to step forward with the Prowling Projectile. They're going to go for the immediate ult, trying to catch out the Lucian. Doesn't hit anybody. The Lux over the wall doesn't get a kill. And now the Lily is flanking from the side. It's going to take a bunch of the culling damage to the face. The Lullaby is huge, though. Vandal's in the front line, but it's just him. Dobbs has shown up at the bad time, and he just has to run. Vandal going to get flashed on a kill for the Ornn, and it's just disaster for MDF. MXL, the only one left alive, will fall to the feathers. It's a clean ace and dragon for Imperial.
And there it is again. Just not what you want to see from MDF. You see them going for it. They almost got a nice pick on the Orianna, but they're still, even if they do that, the Wukong was going in. And that's not what you want right now. He has to be using these Cyclones on people that aren't ready for them. When you see the fight happening and you see that all of IG can just use their ults when they want and just get a bunch of AoE damage on them, that is huge. You have to take the fights when they aren't grouped up. when you burn those ultimates without them being prepared for the fight, that is exactly what you need. And MDF are not recognizing that and saying, we won the last fight, let's just try and force another team fight.
It's been execution the whole series so far, and we do see ornaments, level 16 for the Ornn. He's only got one more to give, so the support will probably be the last one to get that, the mandate on the Nami. And, all right, we're going to take a quick step back. About 1,000 gold difference as it swung almost 5K, I think, based off of that dragon fight.
It's been just flipping back and forth. This thing's this is a choose your own adventure book. You're going everywhere right now. There is no sensible thing that you can actually make out of this.
Boy, do I love choose your own adventure books. That is a topic for another time. They are starting the Baron here with Ornn to tank. Obviously, will be easy. Now, Blue Trinket is going to spot them out. Volibear's on the bot side of the map, does have the teleport available, but the Baron has already gone down. No contest available for MDF. Imperial get themselves another objective and more control on this map.
And you know why they can do that? Because they have all their ults up. If this is a lose-lose situation for MDF, either IG get the Baron for free, or MDF try to contest them on that, and they have all the AoE ultimates to win that fight. Now,
good Zhonya's is going to keep Stone Made Soft safe from the Lux combination. That now cooldown not available for about 1.5 minutes, but there's no big fights, right? You don't have Dragon for another 3 minutes. You don't have Baron because it's on you right now, so not really anything they need that for. A pick is nice here, but that's really all you're kind of going to be able to get if you're MDF at this point.
That's all they've been able to get, too. I don't want them to say, all right, we got those Zhonyas. Next team fight, we can make use of that. No, you're not going to. You're going to get Shockwave, you're going to get Nami Wave, you're going to get the Featherstorm and not be able to kill the Xayah, and you're going to get slept. You need to be able to just take that and say, all right, let's invade on their red side jungle here and catch Lilia out. Let's do something proactive to make sure we're not fighting everybody at the same time. Because there is so much of what these champions do that is about we fight well together, right? What about, other than Cyclone really, what about these champions is I help my team fight. I help in 5v5s. Lux ult, Yuumi ult maybe. But overall, Lucian, he's short range. He doesn't really like team fights that much. Volibear likes to just 1v1 people because of his W. Lux can just pop a person and then she's out of cooldowns. It's all about just grabbing somebody and blowing them up.
That's what needs to be the target here, but with 5 men pushing down the mid lane, that inhibitor is going to fall quickly. Righteous starting to proc the passive on. Now, Vandal's behind them here, but
no, buddy, don't do this.
He just, even if he goes in, I agree, he's just going to get blown up. He's able to sneak his way out. Now, if you want picks, right, vision control is vital. As Ornn has hit that 17 mark, going to get that last upgrade. But they don't have it, and Ornn is finally going to get the engage here.
Whoa.
Isn't going to get the second half of the ultimate as Vandal dodges away, has the Yuumi on him. Tidal Wave coming out too. Now, ultimates have been used. Perhaps this is the chance for MDL to go in. You're going to have to back away as the Volibear forced to ult away. Oh my goodness, that was a huge crit onto Chiller. The binding's going to land, but the shield's coming out from the Nami just mean the deity is just fine. No Featherstorm available. And the binding not going to land from Lux either. Trying to get the poke damage out, but taking a bunch of damage from the minions in response. No one has fallen, but 2 inhibitors have gone down. Vandal looking to try to get in here. There comes the final chapter. It's just not going to catch. Flash forward. It's still not going to get the root down onto the Xayah. Now Vandal gets melted before he can do anything. Dobbs goes in. They are able to get the shutdown onto the Xayah, but that is it so far. Lilia into the front line gets the Lilting Lullaby onto 2, and the cleanup crew has showed up. Lilia with a double, with a triple kill, coming out in the final fight as Imperium are going to take us to 2-0 and match point.
Yeah, and I really just kind of question, it's once again, I feel like not even the composition that was drafted, but the execution and understanding of it. And MDF didn't seem to really have a great concept of that, and they really seemed to struggle with that as oh my goodness. Okay, so that does put IG onto match point here. They have the ability to just close out this series 3-0 at the end of the day. And I think this time I want to see MDF change things, because it's not even that the draft was bad. It was that MDF didn't seem to know what to do with the composition they drafted, and that is a reason to change things up. I think the scaling came through, and the just team fight capabilities of what IG had here were really strong, and there wasn't enough forward progression in that early game and enough pick potential in that late game to really do enough about that. They didn't time those cooldowns correctly, and things just went downhill from there.
Absolutely correct analysis there. I want to give a quick shout out to the Orianna here too. Noble obviously had a very, very good game one. I legitimately thought he was not going to be able to play this game. I thought with Wukong Volibear diving onto you, you just don't have the space. But here he is, 4-2 and 10, several good shockwaves onto multiple members. And he really performed very admirably, I thought, in a kind of a tough situation. So wanted to give him a shout out for that. The rest of Imperium looking really, really strong too, right? Stone made soft, pop-off game on the Lilia as well. You had DD get down early, but was able to come back with the crit Zaya build and put out meaningful damage in those late game fights. So something's going to have to change if Imperial is going to get knocked out of this 2-0 lead they've got. So we will come back with game 3, and hopefully we can see MDF turn it around. Only one way to find out. Alrighty, folks. This could be it. The final game of the upper bracket semifinals, where Imperial has jumped out to a 2-0 lead. It's been back and forth games. It's been close at times, but little things feels like are kind of holding MDF back from being able to take that first game.
Yeah, I want to see changes this time. We kind of saw how we saw how rough it was for MDF as we got into the late game, and there was just no recognition of how do you play around this composition? What do you do to win? And I think that's a clear thing that they need to be like, all right, that didn't work. Let's just change things and make things a little bit easier to grasp for us, because they either had to win early or recognize how to play around their composition late. They did neither of those things, so something here needs to switch up.
I agree, and they are going to be changing their bans again. Seraphine stays on the table, Victor stays on the table, but they are going to swap in a Xayah ban, which I think is really interesting because I didn't feel like Xayah was really the pivotal portion of why that game 2 went south for them. It does offer some safety with the Featherstorm, but definitely a little bit surprising. The teams have switched sides. We are going to get Imperial on blue side, and I'm curious if they high prio the Senna again, or perhaps they want the Volibear.
Yeah, well, you know, they could do neither. They could tell us to screw off and just go for the Fiddlesticks instead. All right. This does mean MDF get the Corki this time, though, and the Ornn. And I like this already. This is already saying, like, and it's not just a, well, it worked for them, it's a, what'll work for us, but, like, they clearly wanted to do the same thing last game. And they kind of bashed their head against it, trying to do it. This time, they can. They have the Corki, who's a late-game monster. They have the Ornn, who's also a late-game monster. Now, difference being, Fiddlesticks is scary at all points in the game, because if you are not warding all areas, you will get just dumpstered by his ultimate. He will fly in from a position, and you need to ward every single possible flank opportunity, because Fiddlesticks will make it a terrifying ordeal to deal with him.
I love that analysis because it's so true. The fear part of his passive only triggers if he's unseen before he hits you with an ability. Mm-hmm. And so and I think we saw a little bit in the last game, warding can get, and it's difficult. I think everybody struggles. I know I do in my solo queue games of being sure to get down good wards. Yeah. More importantly, getting to objectives early to make sure you have vision control. And I feel like both teams like to roll in, 45, 30 seconds before the objective spawns and try to make something happen, and that can be really punished either direction with what these two teams have set up. The other
thing too is MDF had a Yuumi, and Yuumi is notoriously difficult to ward with if you're not on the same page with your team, because as a support, generally you can just walk and ward, and it's dangerous to do, but you generally get away with it. However, with a Yuumi, you can't just pop off and walk. You're extremely slow. It's inefficient. You need to get your teammates to bring you to where you need to ward. And we kind of saw it, if anybody goes back and looks, the vision score difference between IG and MDF supports was massive. And that Yuumi struggled to get any vision down. And that's even harder when you are behind, because you're now risking your teammates on top of yourself when you go and try and face check something. This time, we're not going to get the Yuumi. We're going to get the Karma and the Leona. Leona is very solid at just being able to walk in, ward something, and get away if it gets really, really rough because she's so beefy. Karma, though, with a Vayne is kind of scary here. And I also did want to make a point of, it's not just taking away the fear aspect of the Fiddlesticks ult. It's avoiding the ult entirely. Because, yeah, okay, if you still get ulted by him, you can get out with the fear, and that's great, but you're still going to take a lot of damage in doing so. With being able to see him, the bigger thing is we know he's there. If we see him starting to ult, we just back out, and we don't take any of that damage.
That's an excellent point, and there's no free engage right now as Vi is going to get locked in for MDF.
I like that.
Fourth round. Yeah, R4, it's a nice pick here. You have the ability to lock down this Vayne or this Fiddlesticks, both of whom are pretty squishy and capable of being blown up. Ooh. The Veigar sneaks through as the Lucian banned instead of the Veigar round 2, and it will be locked in for IG.
And this is really interesting too. I think Vigar's, I've talked with this with some pretty like high level analysts and stuff. Vigar is in probably one of the best spots he's ever been in. He is extremely good right now, and he is capable of taking over games really well. On top of, he can still build pretty defensively and do so. His burst is at a point where he only really needs to build a couple of AP items, and we'll see like third item, he'll go Frozen Heart. And that's fine. That's fine. He's still gonna be able to get down the event horizon, which is massive. And also, let's not forget, there's a Fiddlesticks. So you put down the event horizon, you get a Fiddlesticks ult. Doesn't matter if you see him, you can't get away.
It's very true. The baby cage is powerful. You have a good amount of dashes, the Leona, the Vi, even the Ornn to a small extent, that can be very, very useful. It does... I do not know what his last pick is.
Yeah, we're still waiting on that.
I think they finished, and I think they forgot to lock in.
Brand. It is Brand.
Brand is the last pick. Okay, so Skelly gonna go back.
Quirky 80 carry.
Oh, it's gonna be, or it could be Brand bot, I guess.
Brennan. Whichever it is, I'm mad. Like, let's be real here. Okay. So here's the problem I see here. It's kind of twofold. One, Quirky and Brand are very, very vulnerable, and Vigar doesn't even have to hit cage on these champions. They don't have a way out. I honestly would have liked to see something like an Ezreal maybe to be able to get away from these, because it's great against all of these champs. You can E out of Vigar cage, you can E away from Fiddlesticks, you can get away from Vayne and keep that distance from her and keep poking her out, and you can E away from Mordekaiser in the middle of his ultimate and make sure you don't give him any more, capability to come out of that fight with your stats. The Brand is gonna be a feeding frenzy for, I think, a lot of IG's composition, and the Corki's not gonna be much better because even he doesn't have a good way out of the Vigar cage without the flash.
True. I think he can get out with the package, right? Because he does go unstoppable during the package, but I feel like that's not really how you want to be using that gigantic game changer. So it will be. Now there is something with IG's comp that I am a little bit surprised by. It's pretty short range. Pretty much the longest range you've got is the Fiddlesticks ultimate.
Yeah.
And his ability to go over walls. You also don't have easy engage unless you're able to get behind them with the Fiddlesticks. So as opposed to like an Ornn ult or a Vi ult, which can pretty much just go on the targets that they want, it does become a little bit more difficult. If IG fall behind, their comp becomes significantly harder to execute.
Yes and no. And here's why. Because I really think you're discounting. So Vigar's going to go Predator is the thing. He's going to walk real fast, and he's just going to put the cage around people to the point where they can't get out. He's not going to focus on getting the stun with it. He's just going to keep them in, and Fiddlesticks will come around. Also, Draft Law, update the Fiddlesticks freaking thing. It's using the old splash art. Come on now. Or no, not Draft Law. This is actually League Broadcast. What? This like came out after Fiddlesticks' rework was already out. What in the god? Okay. Anyway, I'm gonna stop getting annoyed here. Anyway, point being, he's not gonna look for the stuns. He just walks up, puts the cage, and makes sure they can't get out of it without flashing. Fiddlesticks doesn't even need to come from behind. He could just come from the side. He can come even from where Vigar is at. And even without the fear, he's in there and they don't have a way out outside of the flash. So it's really, really scary. Okay, it is going to be the Brand mid here with the Corki 80 carry. I don't know how I feel about that because it's part of why Corki has been so prevalent in mid since his kind of changes for a while. He used to be such an incredible bot laner. The big reason why is the package. The package has been extremely influential on him being able to affect the rest of the map. You can't do that as well from the bot side, and he's very, very focused on getting his levels in his abilities. He wants his abilities to level up as soon as possible. He's an ability-focused champ, and because of that, you generally like to have those types of champs in the mid lane so that they can hit their breakpoints faster and faster.
Very true. No, and Corki, like you mentioned, because he scales so hard as the game goes on, he really does need those extra levels. Now, it's possible Leona just goes on a roam fest and you kind of have Corki almost side laning. Because I feel like he does offer enough safety against like a Vayne Karma. They don't have a ton of luck. Post 6.
I don't think you can do that pre-6 because before 6, Corki is pretty short range actually, and he does not want to be in a position where Vayne is going to run him down, and that is sketchy to leave him alone like that. Vayne will ult and just zoom down with a Karma, and Corki doesn't have a way out. He can Valk away, but if the wave is shoved up at all, he's just gonna get just zoomed down. I think post 6, when you have the rockets, you could just farm with the rockets. That's no big deal at all. At that point, you should be fine. I also do point out now that we do have the the delay on and players are loading into game. The Vayne has Ghost and Flash. So if you leave that Corki alone, that boy is crashing and burning.
That's a very aggressive summoner spell from the Vayne. I feel like even Exhaust is a safer.
Exhaust is on the Karma, so they are like just absolutely looking to make as much difference in that speed between the two champions as possible. Leona, if Leona leaves and Corki is anywhere away from his tower, he is dead. He is a dead little mustachioed boy.
He will be run down with the speed of 1,000 suns. So one more thing I want to touch on. So we got a triple AP topside for IG right here into an Ornn. Now you do have a Vayne, which is, if you're going to go all AP except for one character, Vayne's probably the best AD champion you could possibly have there. But if this Ornn isn't put down early, it's very possible that he becomes so beefy that it becomes very difficult to deal with him as the game continues.
Yes. So, yes and no. The reason I say that is Vayne and Veigar are two of the scariest scaling champions in the game, and they have a Karma to give them safety and ability to just run in. I think ultimately Ornn will still get shredded here, and on top of that, this is a really scary composition to kind of try and build against, in terms of, like, if you're gonna go all of one damage type, you want to go all AP, because AP defense items, magic resist items, they suck. They're not good. There's so many different items to give health and to give armor, and there is not a whole lot to give MR. I mean, especially as a support player myself, there's like one support item that gives MR, and it's not a good tank item. It is an enchanter item at that. So you don't have a lot of great options to build defensively against MR. Even though there are some, it's not ideal, because like Spirit Visage, not gonna be great. You're not gonna heal much on any of these champions. Oh my goodness, why am I blanking on the name? The item
there's Stone Plate, and then there's
Stone Plate's okay.
What now I'm blanking.
Yeah, it's the one. It's the mask you dive in and.
Oh, Abyssal Mask? No, you're talking about. Well, Abyssal Mask is like a support, like extra CC.
No, that's Zeke's. Abyssal Mask is it.
Abyssal Mask is it? That one's just got changed recently. What is the one that builds out of the moon plate? I can't I'm struggle busting.
Yeah, I apparently have no brain cells. Regardless, we're
right,
loading into the game.
The MR items are bad. Quick prediction before we head into game 3.
I'm gonna give it to IG again. They just look like they're on form.
I agree. The ease of even though I don't think the ease of execution is with them, I agree with everything you said in terms of what they've built into this comp to give them ways to win, and I expect them to make this a clean 3-0 and move themselves on to finals. All right, we're going to get into game here in a few seconds. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Alrighty, folks, here it is. Possibly the final game of this series. We do have a conclusion of the lower bracket semifinals. Going Ghost is going to move on, and they will play the loser of tonight's match in that spot for the finals. We do see 5 members right now of Imperial moving up, and Dobbs is going to spot them out, back himself away as the rest of his team is 5-pointing. So we'll see if they choose to move down and get vision. Doesn't look like they are so far.
Yeah, so far, it's just the back away. Interesting to note here, too, Fiddlesticks going for that early control ward, as he is capable of doing, because that boy heals a lot in the jungle and does not require potions. I still do like the pickup of 1 potion, mainly just because it does give you a little bit of extra safety if some funky shenanigans do occur. It's just going to be a quick early start. Both junglers starting on the bot side, looking to head top, interestingly enough, which I feel like makes sense for the Fiddlesticks, not as much for the Vi, though.
It's possible they just want the help clearing. Vi's early. She starts W here, the Dancing Blows, to get a little bit more damage and attack speed boost off of her passive, which is nice. Dobbs is going to get traded on pretty heavily by the Mordekaiser here. That passive doing a lot of damage, but Righteous is also taking a lot of minion damage. So not quite as bad a trade for Dobbs, but the extra 2 potions coming out for the Mordekaiser with the addition of the Doran's Ring will give him a slight health advantage for now.
Yes, but Doran's shield is good, and there's the biscuits on the Ornn as well. So I actually am going to give that in favor of the Ornn as far as that trade goes, but the constant damage being thrown down from the Mordekaiser, he can follow up. Like, Ornn is not going to be able to follow up on those breaths. He's not going to be able to auto. If he trades autos like that, he's going to lose every time. And Righteous, he can just keep throwing that mace down and bonking that boy on the head.
Obliterate indeed, as we do see the trading continues. Now, Vi chose not to full clear her bot side. She did grab, she skipped her wolf camp and is going to be on the top side before Fiddlesticks has moved over. So potentially room as this Mordekaiser is pushed up to get a gank off. Ornn does have some setup for it, though is currently at a level disadvantage and maybe for a little while.
Yeah, it is pretty clear here that Corky's not going to have a great time early.
Here's the invade. Fiddlesticks is going to get found now. Pretty weak in a duel early. Is going to take a lot of damage. We'll be able to heal some of that back up with the W.
Look at the collapse.
Yeah, here they go, though. Vandrel is found. There's 4 members here. This is really nice. Event Horizon going to catch 2, though, in it. Flash over the wall from the Mordekaiser. They're going to get the pullback onto the Vi, who still has the flash available. Going to go over the wall there, immediately followed by Skelly. It is going to be just a trade of flashes, 1 for 2.
Yeah, actually a pretty big win overall for IG there as they get Skelly and Vandrel's flash. That invade was pretty solid. It's smart to be like, all right, Fiddle, he generally is, if he's going for the greedy clear when he pulls so many camps together, he does get decently low health and he can't really fight people early on. I like the invade there, and the collapse was great, but unfortunately, the Mordekaiser is really strong at that level 3 point, and we saw how good it can be, although that was just there.
Very nice trade there. Was able to get the brittle damage procced with the knock up. And he didn't have to leave to go help his jungler either, so he's up in XP, he's up in lane push right now, and he's up in CS. So very important that that the roams from the soul laners didn't result in kills, because it gives a big advantage over to MDF's solo lanes.
Yeah, really, really great stuff there. I think.
Never falter.
Yeah, Corky.
The shield just allows the Vayne to trade with impunity, which is so rare in many lanes. He just doesn't have the lane presence needed, it feels like.
The other thing, too, is Vayne generally deals with AD carries that are much stronger range and much stronger early trading potential. Corky doesn't have that right now. He's not going to out-trade. People think Vayne's like, oh, she's such a great late-game champ. Her level 2, level 3 is pretty freaking good because the extra damage from those Silver Bolts procs is great, and Corky absolutely does not ever want to take those kinds of fights. He wants to poke people. He wants to not fully engage. He wants to like get an ability and an auto attack and just back away.
It definitely does. Not working out for him so far. Down about 15 CS in this lane. He will get to catch a few more, maybe 6 or 7 coming off of this next wave, but that will be all. As the junglers continue to farm up, Fiddlesticks is going to have a faster clear than Vi. Already getting onto that second reset on the Krug camp, while Vi is cleaning up her wolves. So a little bit of an advantage there, but overall, things kind of not being super explosive outside of that one trade that happened. Ornn getting aggressive here, is getting close to the level 6. He's actually grabbed it off that wave, could have just immediately turned and gone for the all-in, but did not do so, as Brand continues to farm pretty well against Corki in the mid.
Yeah, and this...
Vi is behind. Sorry to cut you off here. They're going to get the engage down. They go on to the Karma, though. Maybe that's the best shot. Flash away from the Vi Q is
Frost
going to get Deity out to safety. Frost might be in trouble now because it gets slowed by the Karma Q, but not knowing where Fiddlesticks is means they can't go forward. Righteous is teleported down as well. Not really sure. Flash still available, for Frost. Is going to get himself out to safety.
They need to take
and
this
Ornn
drag.
now. Ornn is up 24 CS and is going to get several more waves without Righteous being there. That's a huge commit for the Mordekaiser, and he's not going to get anything from it.
Look, Ornn is going to get level 7 before Mord hits level 6, and that just basically means he's never, ever, ever going to be able to fight him. I mean, they have to get this dragon out of this, which they will be able to do because this Corki just does not have any lane pressure. We're still waiting on the level 6. Also, Corki started tier, which makes things even rougher for him in terms of these trades. So has to be very careful of the Vayne just kind of running at him. Frost also taking a lot of poke here. I almost would have rather seen a kind of maybe something that could heal up this Corki as opposed to the Leona, because I didn't really see a world in which they were able to fight this Vayne early unless they absolutely won in those early levels with the poke on the ability. They had even like an Alistar here for the passive heal from that would mean a lot to keep this Corki okay in terms of just trying to farm against somebody as potent as the Vayne in 1v1 early low range fights.
Agree. I think Soraka's really underrated right now as well. It may not be in the champ pool, of course,
She
but
did
I
just
think
get
Soraka Corki is okay. It got nerfed a little bit, maybe. I think it's still pretty
good.
Strong, though. We do see gigantic CS leads. The gold is actually less than 100 part, but it is Fiddlesticks is going to get engaged on. But Vi doesn't have priority here. Both of her solo laners are late to the party, and Vandal is going to get cut down. Vigar picking up first blood at the 8-minute mark, just not quite understanding his ability to pressure the Fiddlesticks there.
That's just not a smart decision there from Vandal, and very greedy from him. And that honestly is really, really big too, because already Vi was behind. That's just going to put her even further behind this Fiddlesticks. Level 6 now on the Fiddle, so he will have access to that ultimate while Vi is still trying to farm that up. This is where Fiddle can really try to pressure this advantage now, because he has the alternator right now. He can just go for an ult against somebody probably in this mid lane. He's going to get spotted out on a ward here, but if Brand's not careful, he could just get ulted over the wall and dove.
Yeah, Fiddlesticks moving up towards the top side of the map with that Vigar here. Vandal's down toward the bot side. Vayne going to move forward, but not able to get a target with that tumble just yet. And so pretty much most of the gold, I should say the biggest gold lead that exists for MDL right now is on this Ornn. And unfortunately, as I love tanks, I am a tank player myself. Ornn's not where you want to have the gold lead, as they're going to dive under tower here. Chillerfrost going, doesn't have the ultimate yet. Soul Battery over the wall from the Vi. They are going to get a lot of damage down, but the Vayne still is not dead. MXL having to go forward, but it's taking tower aggro, and Chillerfrost is able to get out, but it looks like Vandal's going to get chased down. It is going to be a kill to the Karma, which is pretty nice. And
is it?
The Brandis showed up, actually. Great use of the Pyroclasm is going to clean up a kill. They get 2 for none. I'm sorry, for just the 1, as they slightly misjuggled tower aggro, but that's still definitely a win as the teleport comes out for the Brand back mid to catch this wave.
Huge stuff there. And I, like you said, you saw the Vi go over there, and I immediately thought about it, and then I was like, wait, Vi passive will definitely keep her safe as the Brand comes in to help finish that one off. A good dive. Like you said, a little bit unfortunate that it was the Corki juggling the tower aggro there.
Oh,
Here comes the dive.
Crow Storm. Yep, under turret. He's going to be silenced. Flashes away, but the ultimate from the Vigar is out. And the little evil minion is on the map 2-0 and feeling very strong at 10 minutes.
Very strong and has those Predator boots already, so look for the roams to come from the Vigar at this point, and you can really make some things happen with a Vigar and a Fiddlesticks doing pretty well right now. I really want to see them go for that bot side. I think diving this Corki is absolutely something they can get away with, and they could just put him even further into the ground. And a Vayne already ahead here. MXL finally does have the rockets now, but man, it is rough going, and it is going to continue to be rough going here until they can get some kind of pressure again from their jungler.
Agreed. Now, at least the CS discrepancy hasn't gotten bigger since he hit level 6, which is something, right? We take wins where we can get them here. So is keeping up. He's starting to get towards that man immune as well. As Fiddlesticks continues to hard clear, he's up about 20 CS. The gold lead has shrunk for the Ornn on the top side as his CS numbers are starting to drop. But overall, it's less than 1,000 gold apart between the two teams. And even though the scaling, I would say, is definitely on the side of Imperial, it isn't a done and dusted game just yet.
Yeah, I do want to take a look at the experience here, though, as actually Mordekaiser's been able to catch up and just very slightly pass the Ornn experience, although he's got a back right now. The big thing was with that push out, there was a very, very large experience lead for the Ornn, and that's actually the bigger thing than the gold from the minions. There's an engage.
Fiddlesticks goes back in, but I feel like they saw the Fiddlesticks in the lane. Is forced to flash away. Vigar's going to get caught by the Vi, who's going to go in with the season desist. It used to be called Assault and Batter. I believe it's been changed now. Noble going over the wall, trying to get the ultimate off. Now Skelly P is here. The Pyroclasm's going to do a lot of work. He's going to get the stun off. Vi wants to go back in over the wall. Doesn't land. Fiddlesticks goes into the stopwatch here, but does he have the support of his team? Event Horizon going to keep the Vi at bay. Now Deity is in a 1v3. Flash over the wall from the Corki's going to get him out to safety. Meanwhile, re-engage with the Crow Storm. They're all so low. Deity wants to move forward. The shield up from the Karma is going to get him that kill. They do end up cleaning up one plus the support, and it is going to be a big win as they grab the dragon for themselves.
Oh my goodness, that fight was very, very messy on all fronts. A massive ult from Chiller Frost, but traded his life for it. Not exactly what you'd like to see. And overall, I don't even... I mean, obviously that did favor IG, and there's why Mordekaiser is pretty good in Ornn.
True, and he can do a lot of things. There's what I love about this matchup is that there's so much outplay potential from both sides. Ornn has an unstoppable, which means you can prevent the pull, you can prevent the ult, and so there is a chance to outplay Mordekaiser and get some wins. But Mordekaiser does just straight up outdamage you if you use your W incorrectly, if you use your ult before he uses his, as we saw in that exchange there. So Mordekaiser will begin to win out, although he is still down about 20 CS.
Yeah, man, this is actually kind of like really weird. Because you're looking at the champions that you generally think would have better pressure. I mean, like Corki probably didn't expect as much, but you would have hoped for a little bit more from the Corki. But overall, like Vayne, generally not a champion who gets a pretty solid early lead without some mistakes occurring as an early lead. Ornn, pretty similar here as Predator is coming in. Here comes the waddly boy.
No flash on the Chilled Frost. They are going to get the stun. Immediate cleanse comes out from the Corki, but his support is not going to be so lucky. They give the kill over to the Vayne as well. A nice pick up there, recognizing the lack of flash on the support and being able to punish it with a bot lane gank.
The cleanse burned as well, which once again, great job by MXL to have that cleanse and recognize what the game plan was going to be here. Literally no damage done thanks to the Karma Shield.
Is perfect. Yes, that was... I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of rough to look at a Corki who's struggling this hard this early, especially into such a hard scaling character like the Vayne, who's running Ghost and will just be able to run down any stragglers at the end of team fights, and she gets herself the full first turret as well.
Yeah, it's just after plates, so we don't get all the plates down, but Looking for a fight on this bot side. Vandal going to show up on a ward. TP coming. They can't do this.
Oh, they've got the Crow Storm. Yeah, no, Righteous is... I feel like if Righteous actually holds that TP for a few more seconds, they get them to overcommit and they can make a punish happen.
Yeah.
But the Predators pop. The stun's going to land onto the Vigar. That's a lot of damage. Brand can still definitely do some work, as Skelly P now might be in trouble. Pyroclasm is only going to land on 1, and it's not going to get the bounce. So while Noble does go down to half, that team fight ult is now no longer available with Dragon Spawn. I guess it's not for another 2 minutes. Meanwhile, Ornn, not having to blow the teleport, is just continuing to push on the top half of the map, getting a lot of damage down onto that turret.
Yeah, and once again, just getting to that ability to pull out the ornaments as quick as possible here. It's just going to keep him going, and I think that's really important for them. They need him to be able to handle this Mordekaiser as long as possible. He's not going to be able to do much about this Vayne in terms of getting hit by her, but he can at least use that Ornn ultimate and hopefully set things up for the rest of the team. There is a really scary thing that MDF have kind of set up for them right now, and that is the Ornn ult with the Leona ult with the Corki package on top of Brand laying down a Pyroclasm that will give him the time to do all of that and move up there safely. There's a lot of teamfight presence that MDF have. They just need to make sure that they are doing so with full clarity of where this Fiddlesticks is, because if they don't do that and they over-engage like we saw them do a couple of times in the last game, that's going to hurt them real bad when the Crow Storm comes in and just wipes the floor with them.
Very true. This Fiddlesticks having 5 assists in the early Rocket Belt here, he's in a good spot. He's not, I wouldn't say he's in a phenomenal spot, but he's in a pretty good spot. Is definitely big enough to wipe out most of the members that aren't Ornn, I would say, in an good engage with the Crow Storm here. Now you do see Dragon spawning about the same time here. 30 seconds left. They're going to try to take this Herald first, it would appear, but that means that MDF is going to be able to go down and get vision and priority around this Drake. You can see Ornn backing. He's got a lot of gold. He's going to be on 2 items here at 17 minutes, or darn close to.
He does not have TP for this fight, and Mort is showing up for it.
Okay, so this could be a big... And I think they're calling him off. I think Ornn has decided. Now, I like this. Drop the Herald mid. They're using this to get mid pressure. Somebody's going to have to go answer that. Most likely. Here's the Brand. He wants to get the pick. He immediately uses the Pyroclasm, but he only hits 1 person, and that is not good when you are really looking. Yeah, here comes the Dragon. The root comes out. Not a lot of damage yet. The ultimate hasn't come out. Vandal flashes forward, which is nice. That's a great flash out of the Fiddlesticks, though. He's in the middle of the whole team, churning out damage with the Crow Storm. It's just a melt fest as the health bars of MDF evaporate. 4 for 1, and the Dragon and Imperial are looking to make this a clean sweep.
And no Ornn. No Ornn for that fight. They could not bring him down. While it was a great idea to get there and get the priority on it, they didn't have the full team, and Righteous was with his team to start that fight. And also, Skelly misplayed that fight entirely. Didn't get anything out of the Pyroclasm except for 1 hit onto the Vigar, whiffed on the actual Flame Pillar, and did not do much of any damage. The Fiddlesticks them flying in and doing huge AoE damage across the entire team throughout that fight. That was a really, really bad misplay from MDF.
And the Brand, unfortunately, has just not been particularly impressive for me the last 2 games. I feel like it can offer such great team fight values, and I figured against like a shorter range comp that we're seeing here, maybe, yes, he's going to get caught out in the baby cage, but maybe he can put down his full combo and deal half of everybody's health bar before he goes down, which is a fine trade, I think. Once you're Brand, if you've used your entire spell rotation, you've pretty much done everything you need to do. But I just haven't seen his positioning. He was sitting in the bush waiting to make a pick. They had no idea he's there. And you see the Vigar walk up. It's an EQ into stun, right? And then you get free Pillar, free Pyroclasm, and that is at least half of his health bar. Maybe that fight turns out differently. But instead, he goes for a less secure combination.
Just for the Pyroclasm start.
Yeah, I don't even think he got the passive going down onto it. As they do have vision here of the Fiddlesticks. Gonna flash over the wall, immediately followed by this decent assist. That's a great stun into Fear, but it's not enough as Vandal is going to get that kill. Meanwhile, Deity shows up though, and the ultimate from the Vigar claims another kill. The Ornn is here, but what can he do? He is ahead. Here comes the Ornn ultimate. The best he's going to be able to do is stop it. It's a nice dash. Isn't quite going to get him out. He's just going to get run down by this Vayne, who still has the Ghost, and she does go unstoppable. It is a 3-for-1. MDF find the pick they were looking for, but trade 3 of their own response, and now Baron is on the table.
And Baron's going to be taken pretty easily here, I think. They don't have smites on either team. Corki is capable of trying to get over there, but I think the Vigar cage is going to be enough to stop them from doing so, so it will just be given away. They are on a ward, but they're just not going to try and run for it and just give that up. And I actually wanted to point this out. Like you said, the brand hasn't really seemed too great. I think the call here was the fact that they picked the Vigar after the Corki. I think they just hot swapped the Corki into the bot lane and threw Brand in there saying, we don't want to take Corki against Vigar. It's not a fun matchup at all. We talked about how Corki is pretty short range, and that puts him right in the range of Vigar E. It is not a fun time to play up against a Vigar. I think that was the call, and I think they got baited there. I think they should have just taken the rough matchup and tried to stay alive and scale alongside the Vigar, because right now they ended up putting the Corki bot, and the same thing happened, and now it's a Vayne that is running all over your team who already has the Gwynsu.
That is exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, no, Deity is snowballing out of control this game, right? Oh, man, Vandal can't even pick up the large Raptor, as that's going to get stolen away by the support. He's going to be found here. This jungle isn't his anymore. He's gotten the pull. Chooses not to pull the jungler into the Death Realm, I guess, not feeling comfortable about where the rest of the team was, and isn't going to go for that pick. They do want to kind of get this turret down. But yeah, back to what you were saying. I think Vayne is as bad, if not worse, than the Vigar matchup is. Maybe they didn't die as often, but I've not been particularly impressed by the brand picks these last couple of games. Galley's going to get found out. No engage as the Fiddlesticks doesn't have the ability to go over the wall that quick.
Yeah, and right now, we're kind of being dragon. I don't know why the dragons are not showing on the timer here. Should be.
Oh, 35 seconds, and there is 3 over to Imperial so far. As Ornn's going to get caught up, he is going to get stunned. That's a lot of CC. Going to take half his health bar, but he is Ornn after all. Karma going to use the Shirelias, just kind of move between mid and bot. Now, there is a lot of team threat here. That's a great ult. Oh, the Crowstorm goes in. Followed up by the Event Horizon. 2 members immediately dead. Righteous going to pull the Ornn into the Death Realm. Going to flash forward to make sure he can get this kill. Dobbs has nowhere to run. The Event Horizon is down just in case he gets out. And the Ace will be taken by the Mace. It wasn't an Ace. I messed up my words. We're not going to worry about that. They have 1 minion right here, soon to be 2. Vandal goes right back in. The package is nice out of MXL, but he gets immediately ulted by the Vigar and takes 3/4 of his health bar. He'll still have poke, but the Karma may be able to run him down. You flash forward into the queue. The support Karma taking on the AD carry. Anything you can do, I can do just as well. Now, low health bars and no minions mean they are going to back away. They're going to grab this Ocean Soul, but it feels like only a matter of time before MDF fall and Imperial move on to Grand Finals.
It really, really does here. I want to give credit where it's due. That was a really good package. I think that package genuinely saves the game, because not only did it do a buttload of damage across that entire team, but it also cleared out the minion wave and made sure that they could not continue the push, and brought their attention to the Corki instead of trying to push. So that was really, really key and clutch from MXL, but I just don't see it making a difference, because they don't, once again, they don't have the better late game scaling here.
Even if they did, you're down almost 12,000 gold right now, which I hadn't realized the lead was that big until I took a look at it. Plus Ocean Soul, plus the fact that you have hyperscaling like you mentioned, and boy, you are going to have to get a lot of really, really important picks really quickly. and you're going to have to not give them room to breathe for like the next 10 minutes or so, and I just don't see that happening because Elder being on the clock in 5 minutes is kind of putting an artificial end to this game at the very latest.
Yeah, oh, they're actually pushing really deep in here.
Vygar's going to get picked off. The ultimate comes down from the Vi. They are going to get the kill. They do get the stun onto the Karma. Flash forward from the Leona. Maybe they can chase this down. Leona does not have the flash available. The Fiddlestick's ult is gigantic, and immediately the Corki evaporates. Leona is going 1v1 in the supportive combat. Fiddlesticks is going to turn that one into a 2v1. Nowhere for this Leona to go. Is just going to get chased down. Does use the Zenith Blade to continue to chase, but no mana means she is in for a bad time. Righteous, meanwhile, is going to clean her up on the backside. It is a 3-4, actually just ends up being a 2-for-1, but the push, the minions are here. They have to deal with supers at their base. Is this the end for MDF?
I don't think it's the end just yet, but it's not. Once again, they're going to lose this inhib. It is just so rough. Oh my goodness.
That is one obliterate coming out from the Mordekaiser. Now, it does take a good chunk of change in return. The brand passive is not to be trifled with. Very, very powerful percent HP damage. Now it looks like they're looking to get they've got push in the mid the bot lane. Now they just need to get that going in the top side, get control of the minions, and end this game.
Yeah, it is the beginning of the end, the choking fumes of MDF. They are just stuck watching as their entire side of the map is getting cleaned up. There's Skelly getting a little caught out again.
Up, and he's super dead as the ultimate comes down. Now, he does get the Pyroclasm out. It does some decent damage, but just not enough.
No, it doesn't.
No,
it really
I mean,
doesn't.
I guess he took like a third HP off of the carries with that combo before going down. Just, unfortunately, a rough game for him. Now, this is not the end for MDF. Although they look like they're going to lose this series, it is double elimination, so they will drop down to the lower bracket, and they've got a shot by playing Ghosts next week. So, not the end, but they're going to need to have a little bit more of an impressive showing if they want a rematch to go in the finals.
Yeah. It's most likely going to be the end of this series at the very least. Another Event Horizon.
Pullen, Vandal's going to go into the Death Realm. Does have the ability to jump towards the fountain, but isn't going to be able to get there. Uses the ultimate. Meanwhile, the Leona's just going to get rooted down. The Ornn has gotten stunned up. Wasn't able to do much. They are dashing back to the fountains. That is cleaning up some kills, but they haven't quite done enough damage yet. Triple kill for Deity. Are they going to be able to get the Penta here? There's the Quadra. It is going to go down. The Penta kill for Deity to top this series off with a bang. Imperial is going to Grand Finals.
Woo! Okay, so I mean, look, overall, Imperial looked great in the last game specifically. I think games 1 and 2 looked a little iffy at points. I think they definitely there was a certain point where Imperial were just in control, but I attribute that more to failings of MDF of Imperial Gaming's doing well. They just kind of had a lot of things thrown to them that they were able to just catch really easy back around. Game 1 was very back and forth and pretty sloppy on both sides. This time around, though, they were pretty much just golden from the get-go. And I think at the same time, I just once again feel like MDF really kind of threw themselves into the fire where they didn't have to. Like we said, I think the Corki was swapped. It was intended to go mid, most likely. I obviously don't have any real strong information, but my thought was that. And the brand feels like, it was like, we don't want to put Corki against Vygar. Let's shove Corki bot lane and pick brand again. And it's just never worked. The brand has not had any success tonight, and it won't have any success tonight as Imperial just clean sweep throughout all of the night.
Yeah, the macro play, I think, was a very clean final game. They got all the dragons, they got all the towers. They pretty much had the whole thing on lock. And Brand, I think, is a great situational pick, but it was picked blind twice tonight. I guess technically it was picked into the Vygar, but it might as well be blind because that's not a good matchup for Brand. either. So some things I feel like when it came to the draft might have been a little bit more clear from MDF, but we really do just I mean, a 3-0 is, especially in the semifinals of the winners bracket, is impressive. And Imperial has looked good all season long, and they continue to have a strong showing in this series.
Yeah, I mean, if there was ever a stamp of approval there, I think that last game definitely put it in, and they had just better play throughout. I think their compositional awareness was better throughout the entire night, and that really propelled them ahead compared to MDF, who didn't have a better understanding of what they needed to do in order to actually put a threat up against their opponents. So overall, Imperial Gaming, great job tonight, and they obviously have deserved to go to the finals and will do so. MDF, like we said, not out yet, will go to the lower bracket where they are going to play against Going Ghost, I believe you said. That will be a fight for who is going to fight for the finals. Maybe we'll see a rematch, maybe we won't.
No way to know until we find out next week. I just want to say thank you so much, ZGG, for having me back, even just for tonight. I really had a blast. It was really fun seeing a lot of familiar faces and learning some new ones. I think Righteous and Noble really stood out to me tonight. Stone Made Soft, as well as names that maybe I hadn't known before, but they certainly, their play spoke volumes. So thank you very much for having me tonight. Have a wonderful evening, ladies and gentlemen. The next week's matches will be very exciting. Be sure to catch those.